Do it.
All right, and we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for stopping by. We're going to get to it today with the most important topic, obviously, Pokemon market bubble. Why now is the time to sell everything to Alex and I, because you might as well get out now before everything pops. But before we jump into that, as always, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. Really helps the YouTube channel out. And then, of course, if you're interested in accessing Pokemon Magic Yu-Gi-Oh! Wholesale prices, message me on the Discord or check the link down in the description below to join. And then lastly, Alex is crushing it right now on his Pokemon break stream. So make sure that if you're interested in checking that out and or following his channel, links down in the description below for that as well. Anything you want to say, Alex, as we get started?
No, man, we need to start running now. We need to head to the hills, batting down the hatches because it is coming. Because what comes up must go down.
You know, I had one of the guys I was talking to in the shop was telling me that the Pikachu is way overvalued and it should be worth $200. So, you better start selling your Pikachus now, bro. Because
where do you get those numbers from? Just
out of his butt. Yeah, yeah. No way, it's worth over $200. That's crazy.
I just made a video today about people comparing modern cards to vintage cards and saying, well, hey, this card shouldn't be worth that much because this card back here is only worth this. And if you draw this parallel or that parallel, and they have this board going around like you see these FBI detectives have, they have all these strings going around. And so therefore the value should be $500. It's crazy what these people come up with, man. You went mute. You went mute on us. Yeah, it's your mic because you're not muted on here. Eli is having some technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. But who's in the chat? Who's in the chat today? We got 81 people in here. Tell your friends, tell your family, get them in here before we really get rolling. It's about to get wild. The impending doom, collapse, inept card collector. It's coming, brother. It's coming. Yes, the Magikarp 1K.
Can you hear me now?
He's back.
Okay, I'm back.
Now cool. He's doing some kind of Verizon commercial from the 90s.
Sorry, I saw a notification saying your USB device has been disconnected, and I was like, uh-oh, something probably with my mic.
Kick the mic out?
Yeah, right. But what was I saying? You were saying that you were doing a video stream. Oh yeah, it's like people comparing oh dude, Moonbreon should be worth that much. There's 14,000 population report. Look at this Snivy card that's got a pop 10, bro. It should be worth way more. There's only 10 in the PSA 10. Come on now. And you're just
or they'll look at the box prices. They'll be like, well, this XY box costs this much and the best hit is this. And even if it grades a 10, well, the box prices shouldn't be that high because it doesn't make sense.
Shouldn't be worth that much. Dude, there was someone, oh my God, I feel heartbroken. But also, all things considered, it wasn't bad. They came into the shop, they bought an Evolving Skies booster, and they opened it. And they were hoping to get the Moonbreon. And
wait, booster pack or box?
Booster box.
How much? How much?
$950 is how much we're selling it for in shop.
Max Payne.
Yeah. And so he got the Dragonite alt art, which is not bad, all things considered, for a freaking Evolving Cries box. But he was like, oh dude, he's like, I got garbage. All I got with this Dragonite alt art. And I was talking to my wife because she was the one that was talking to him when it happened. I was like, what do you mean that's garbage, bro? That's a really good hit when you consider the fact that it's one of the best hits you can get in a box that's almost worth $1,000. You're not going to get anything that's going to pay the box other than the Moonbreon. And even then, it's dude, good luck on pulling that one specific alt art. So if you even pull a alt art, period, you should be happy. So the fact is, you pull $150 alt art ungraded, this is kind of what you are going to expect. The odds are not in your favor that you're going to pull that. I thought it was kind of interesting. Why you open this up? What the heck? I've seen people pull way worse, way worse. I saw someone open a box back when Evolving was 700 and they pulled a gold energy, a gold psychic energy or something. And I'm just dude.
I mean, let's be honest. I don't know what age, it's always different ages, but once a box gets 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, it's basically impossible to get your value back, even pulling the top raw card. I don't care if it's a gold star. The only way to get your value back in a lot of gold stars is to grade them in 10s, right? It's you're not going to get your value back from opening a box on any box after a certain age. People just, it sucks. People don't understand that. And then that's when the single collectors cry, well, that's because they're all overvalued. It's like, no, it's just because the box is now the collectible and not the estimated value of the cards inside. Like when things are new and they're playable and everyone's buying them for their decks and to collect, that's when the estimated value means more. As things age and the boxes become scarce, that doesn't mean as much.
Well, it's like cards. They are inflationary. The more packs open, the more that comes into supply. Booster boxes, deflationary. The more that become open, the less there is supply. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, there is demand that plays a greater factor in all of this, which is why certain cards are worth so much more regardless of their supply. But at the end of the day, we know that within Pokemon, the garbage cards are going to be garbage prices. The garbage boxes are still going to perform well because there's so few of them over time with the supply dwindling. So that's where you kind of get that edge with sealed product, knowing it's a lot safer because you're going to be able to make the bet that, hey, even if it's one of the worst performing ones, it's still going to make you money. Whereas with investing in singles, you have to know what you're investing in with a lot of the singles in kind of what's the popular characters. Do people, in the grand scheme of things like this art design? And there's so much more that goes into the intricacies of it.
And Evolving Skies, hey, at least there is a card in there that you literally can pull that is worth more than the box. But like, even going back to Team Up, right? Like, people get it twisted with them when they look at population reports and they're like, oh, well, the Latios has X amount of population reports. So there's this percentage of chance of pulling a 10 worthy card. Like, no, that is the amount of cards that people pre-graded and sent in that were all that they thought were 10s, right? The odds of you actually pulling a 10 condition card out of a pack is far worse than the 9 to 10 ratio that's on PSA. So now it's already extremely hard to pull that card. It's extremely hard to pull a 10. So the odds are, even if you had a CT scan box and you knew the Latios was inside, you could still come out of that Team Up box underwater if it didn't hit a 10. Because even with the Latios and you pull like 3-4 other hits, it still won't add up to the $3,000 Team Up box. And
yeah,
that's just the reality of how it is when sets age. Like, you need to open up, you need to collect them while they're newer. When reprints happen, when they're low. Once they age, guys, buy the box as a collectible. Don't buy the box to open it.
Yeah, I mean, you go look at like base set Charizard, PSA 9 versus 10. It's like 15 grand versus over 200 grand. Like the difference is astronomical. Like it's significant, or 50. I can't even remember, but it's a huge difference. It's a huge gap. So, and that just goes down to the fact that like 10s are harder to get, especially now. I don't know if you're experiencing this, but I feel like I've heard a lot of people recently say PSA. I mean, they've always been inconsistent, but they've gotten a lot harsher where people, if they want to like crack or even collect, they'll go online and they'll be like, I don't want to, the 3000 series or the 4000 series. Like, I want PSA cards that are part of the 7, 8, 9,000 plus serialized number cards just because of it.
Yeah, I remember the first time that happened. It was back. A lot of people won't remember this, but it was back when the four cert happened. 40 million cert, 4 million cert. Everyone wanted those over the 2 certs and the 1 certs because they saw that as like PSA up their grading standards. They redid the cases. Everything was nice and new and all that stuff. And then, it became another thing in the 6 and 7s. And it's like everyone constantly wants the newer certs. They believe for some reason that, they're graded harsher now. And then people will find like older slabs that were probably misgraded, and they'll use those as like reasons of why like the newer ones, they'll find a really clean new slab and a really bad old slab, and they'll compare them and be like, see, look how much better the grading standards got. It's like, or was that just one scenario where you had a bad grader and a good grader? It's really impossible to really know. Yeah, that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, no, 1000%. 1000%, good sir.
Yeah, I know people are talking about Prismatic too. Like this Prismatic situation. I mean, I know you probably don't have your numbers yet and anything. It's just, guys, you don't always have to collect the brand new thing. You don't have to own the Pikachu right now in Surging Sparks, right? It's like, if you're wanting to open packs or kids want to open packs, there's Paradox Rift, there's Scarlet Violet Base, there's still Temporal's relatively cheap. Crown Zenith is relatively cheap. Like, there's still so many boxes and packs out there that are cheap to open and you can still enjoy. Like, in my opinion, with Prismatic Evolution, if it comes out like $100 in ETB, I wouldn't be buying that to open and enjoy. Like, I'll probably have to buy a product because I'm going to need some for streams because other people are going to want to and they can afford to take that gamble or put money in entertainment. But yeah, I mean, if you're asking me, Alex, do you agree with it? I don't have to agree with it. No, I don't. I don't like that the market's going to be 100 plus in ETB, but at the same time, that's the market. We can't fight it. And I probably wouldn't be paying that much to open a brand new set. That's just me.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, like Surging, very controversial set. I personally think it's a good set. I like it. But the EVs are, I mean, the EVs are not there anymore. Maybe if you were talking about it like early when it first was coming out, because I remember we were talking about it in the wholesale program where some people were saying, hey, it actually makes sense for you to open packs based off of the value of some of the singles where you could make money. But now as everything continues to climb, it's like, dude, but that's how Pokemon is though. Like Pokemon is such a different game than like some other ones like Magic or other TCGs where there's an actual like huge competitive landscape within the game itself. The singles themselves are all within the top rare chase cards. It's not like you've got a bunch of uncommon, common cards or rare cards that are going to bring the value down or the bring the value up of you opening. So it's more or less boom or bust. Like you're going full send gambling. So you should never come in hoping to open something, anticipating that you're going to make a profit.
Yeah, pretty. I mean, obviously, this is one data point, so don't take it too seriously or anything. But I do have a friend now that's, he's opened up some of my pack breaks, and he's in my Discord and things like that. But he's a player, and he was at a regionals event for Pokemon, and he said, because he's kind of like both. He's a player, but he also understands the investing and value side. And so he said, like a lot of people he was talking with there, obviously everyone's upset about surging and how expensive the cards are and boxes are, and the players all need the cards. You guys know the story. But one of the things that he said, he asked a lot of people is like, well, what would you like expect a box to be, or what do you think a fair price is? And he said a lot of people think that like 120ish a box seems like a fair price these days, and that's a huge deal. Again, it was one tournament, one data point of the few groups he asked, but that's good to hear that even people from the player side are starting to like be willing to pay more than $90, $100 a box and see that as more of a fair price. That's a good move in the right direction, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely at least a good transitional shift because with MSRP rising, with wholesale price rising, obviously, as much as we all hate to say it, there's a new normal expectation. I don't know if you do this in your own life, but like I remember back, I mean, it sounds so funny because like I'm 26. It's not like I'm old, but like
Looking
back when
back all those years ago.
yeah, but back when I was like 13, 14, 15, basically like right when I started to earn money, like I got my first job at 16, I would go to like certain restaurants and I would eat meals that were anywhere between like $6 to as much as like $10, right? Like I know, so I used to work, my first job I ever got like job at 16 was I worked at the movie theater. And there was this one Hawaiian restaurant next door that had like a sandwich with fries for like $8.99, and then Red Robin had like a double cheeseburger for like $5.99, and then you got like unlimited fries, right? So like that was kind of what the price range was. But now within today's economy, if it's 10 to $11, I think it's a good deal,
Yeah.
which is what was the normal back in like, I mean, 16, that was like 10 years ago. Wow, I'm old. Yeah, that's like, it's crazy to think how much time changed. So
And Pokemon hasn't changed near as much as things like that, like food and like consumer goods, which is wild. Like it's crazy that a luxury good has not seen the inflation rises consumer goods have.
yeah, I mean, wages are just not keeping up with inflation either. Wages have been so stagnant forever. I mean, slowly increasing, but very, very poorly.
Well, I'm just gonna have Elon Musk robot work for me, so
Yeah, is that so?
I'm not going to work when that thing's out.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how to answer this question because
I'm gonna have him on my pack breaks, just ripping packs.
well, I don't know how to answer this question because I feel like it's a sensitive subject because there's a lot of people that are very much like, how do I want to say this? They're against automations because it takes jobs, but I'm like, I don't know, dude. As a business owner, like how I look at it is it means that there's certain tasks that are very remedial that I can outsource. And then my employees that are doing more intricate jobs, it gives me more, like more ways to pay them more. I can understand if maybe you're like hating on like big corporations that are like just taking money and being greedy. But for me, like anytime I can cut cost and then increase revenue, then that also gives me an opportunity for me to pay my employees more because they're a huge value add and I want them to be a part of the vision long term. So maybe it's just a
Yeah.
different business mindset. But
No, I get it. Yeah.
I mean, we're getting our second Roca tomorrow. So it's going to be the Roca Max. It's exciting. So we're really growing that back in
I mean,
operation.
unfortunately, people are just gonna have to evolve and like find different ways of finding new skills and things that work in the new world that can provide income. It sucks for older people, right? Like, I mean, look, these are questions that are going to be answered by people that are much smarter than us, but it's like they're going to have some kind of transition plan when technology really starts to take over that level of like, hey, anyone over X age, like they can't be expected to like relearn or learn new things. Like we need to like protect their jobs for the remainder of their working life. But like anyone 30 and under, like in their 20s or under, like they're young enough, they can learn something new. They got to get educated on something that works in this new economy because we don't need those jobs. There's going to have to come some kind of transition eventually.
I mean, but that's the thing is like innovation doesn't sleep. Like innovation is not something that just stops just because certain things are no longer prevalent, right? I mean, heck, people that are this generation are struggling too, because if you looked at it like before COVID specifically, or even at the beginning of COVID, tech jobs were like so many tech jobs available. Like the demand for tech jobs in 2020 and 2019 were crazy. So many people were like, if you want to go to school, software engineer, like you're going to make so much money. Like this is the field that you should go into if you're wanting to look at a career path. And a lot of, older generations were basically saying how like they were having their jobs replaced by AI or technology. And, it was like I forgot what the term was, but there was some term about like boomers. I can't remember what it was that people would make about like, oh well, you're just gonna have to adapt or lose your job to these individuals that are taking these jobs. Well, now 2024 going into 2025, it is a completely different market because all those kids that went to college and all were told you should totally become a software engineer, there's now an absolute surplus of them. And so the job market and the landscape's completely changed. And so there's an over
Well, and
demand.
trades were demonized. Like I'm sure you remember that.
Learn to code. Thank you. Learn to
You
code.
remember
Was
that,
the
right?
term.
Like they were. I remember like growing up, like that was like kind of like the thing. Like you don't want to end up being that guy working with your hands and being dirty. Like you want to
being
end
a
up working in
trader?
an office.
Oh yeah, no, dude, it's crazy now because that's where all the money is. Like if you look at the trades, like I can't remember.
The Gen X parents really demonized like manual labor.
I can't remember. Well, yeah, because they were said go to college, get a degree, everyone's gonna be safe. I can't remember who it was who said it, but someone said lawyers and doctors need electricians too. And I was like, that's such a good line. I'm like, that's so true. That's so
So true.
true. But yeah, no. So it's like, yeah, it's an ever evolving kind of landscape. And I would say this is just a business principle. And I know we're kind of going off here because we're, mainly a Pokemon, but we still talk
We'll
business.
pull it back.
We'll pull it back. But like, and with pulling it back, if there's one thing I can tell you when it comes to running a successful business that I've learned is that adaptability is key. You have to always be able to adapt because there's too many times where people will start their own Pokemon business or ask me like, Eli, how do you make money in Pokemon? Like, you know, I have this product, but I don't know how to sell it. It's like you have to learn to be able to adapt because there's so many people that are wanting to do what you're wanting to do. How are you going to stand out compared to your competition? How are you going to be able to make your business model work, or what is going to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pool? Because that's ultimately what is going to lead you to run a successful business. You can't just, expect that everything's going to be handed to you just because you did this one thing, which was get access to a distributor, or you got access to a website and now everyone's going to come to your website, or, whatever your excuse may be, because there's still a lot of leg work that's got to be done.
Yeah, I mean, everything in this hobby is constantly shifting, just like the real world. Like we're on like a micro scale, like but like even just inside this whole like economy of Pokemon, it's just like the content's always changing. Like think about this: if you would have went back like 7 years, and then 5 years, then 3 years, and look at who like the top people in the content game were, you would have looked at them like, oh, there's no way they'll ever fall off. They're the top. They're the king. I got to find some way to be like them. And then all of a sudden, it's just like seemingly overnight, well, they're not the man anymore. Now this new guy is, and now it's just like, well, now all these new people are rising up and they're starting to take the old ranks. I mean, we're seeing some of these new channels get crazy amounts of views, and you're starting to see some of like the old tried and true channels start to decrease in views. And it's just like a changing the guard always happening. And same thing when it comes to business. It's like, people will run the same type of business for years and years, and then the market shifts, or what customers want shift, or more people are doing the same thing you're doing, so that the competition grows, so the margins aren't the same anymore. And a lot of people just they never evolve. They just kind of either like start they get a second job and kind of do this on the side again because they can't make a full-time living, or they just, get upset and just like say, oh, screw this whole thing. The whole thing is going to crap. It's all going to zero because they're unable, or they're, they just don't want to, make those changes and evolve with it.
I haven't seen it yet, but I have a huge amount of respect for YouTubers that would create content based on vintage product if they started to make more content that had to do with modern. I'm not saying you have to give up vintage completely, but it almost feels like a lot of them have taken a hard stance like, hey, I'm the vintage channel. This is what my old channel is about. If I talk about modern, I can't talk about it too glowingly. But at the end of the day, it's like, dude, I don't see how that's going to necessarily hurt your brand, because you have the foresight to recognize, hey, sure, like vintage is still around. Don't get me wrong. There's totally opportunities in vintage, but right now within the modern space, modern has been riding high for so long. And the amount of times people have been saying a bubble's happening, a bubble's happening, a bubble's happening. And if you look at what got hit the most by, the quote unquote bubble, it was vintage cards. Like the modern cards have been the strongest things that have held up. If we're talking about, when I say modern, I'm talking like Sun and Moon era to Sword and Shield era, where you've got the tag teams that have popped off, the alt arts that have popped off, the booster boxes that have popped off. And yet you've seen all these WotC like junk slabs, or all these overvalued WotC cards because they're WotC kind of fall off. And like I said, if you look at it, I'm not saying this is a blanket slate, because you can totally look at some vintage cards that have still gone up in value and have still performed well. Level X's are a good example of that. I'm a huge Level X fan. A lot of them have gone up to over $1,000 a card, whereas if you looked a year or two ago, they were at 500. So there's still things that are moving back then, but you have to do a lot more digging than if you look at what's going on in the current landscape of things within modern. So I feel like turning a blind eye to that is almost ignorant of what the rest of the market is kind of telling you with their wallets.
Yes, I wanted to share this, guys. By the way, this is not at all talking down Pokebeard. I love Pokebeard. I want to have him on the channel here soon, which we're trying to set out of time. So he's wildly successful on YouTube, but I want to draw your attention to something. Every week he does a vintage, it's Throwback Thursday. It's all about vintage. Look at his views, okay? 10K, 20K, 16K, 15K, 5K on the vintage day. All right. 14, 23, 17. Okay. 14, 4.7K on the vintage day. And it's like that all the way down. Right. And he keeps doing it because, it's for the goodness of the hobby. He likes to put out, something that hits everybody, so that gets people what they want. But I mean, it's very clearly, when you look at his channel, it's wildly successful. He has tons of viewers. He's got 134,000 subscribers. But every time of the week on the vintage video, it consistently gets far less views than the other videos. And so it's just, I mean, when you see that, you can't unsee it. You can't like bury your head in the sand and just say, oh, well, everyone else is wrong. It's just like, or you just need to evolve with the hobby and understand where the attention's going, and that more people are starting to feel differently than you. You can still, enjoy what you like and collect what you like, but if you're giving out advice on how to play the market, a lot of the stuff that used to work 8 years ago just doesn't work anymore.
Follow the money, baby. Follow the money. That's what you got to do.
And by the way, props to Pokebeard for still putting out that video every week, because he knows he's a content creator. We all know. Eli knows. Everyone knows. We know what kind of content we can make to get the views. Hats off to him for continuing to put out that video every single week, even though he knows he's not going to get the same views as he could putting out something else, because he feels like it's good for the community and he wants to touch on every aspect of it. And so hats off to him, honestly. But it is good to see that data point.
It'd be so discouraging posting out a video consistently every week, just knowing that it's always going to be your worst video. And you're just like, here we go. Just another terrible view video.
He's a better man than I.
Yeah, right.
He is.
Did he put Pokemon investing in the title? Oh, that's what he needs to do. That's what he needs to do.
Who does
Throwback
that?
Thursday, Pokemon investing vintage question mark.
Who does that? I wouldn't do that. Like, I don't put that in my title ever.
Yeah, never. Not me, bro. I never talk about Pokemon investing on this channel.
Oh man,
that's so funny. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the overarching theme of what we're trying to talk about in today's stream, because obviously, you know us, like we troll with our titles, we troll with our thumbnails, but like there's been so much, I feel like, kind of, I mean, I don't know about you, Alex, but it feels like there's been so much of a bubble that I feel like people have constantly said over time, like the bubble's going to pop, the bubble's going to pop, the bubble's going to pop. And like we already mentioned, like, yeah, there's a lot of things that popped in vintage, but so far, like, you know, modern stood super strong. And it almost feels like kind of deja vu because this is what everyone said about the housing market back in 2016. Like,
Dude, we just saw it months ago with the alt arts. Like, I'm not gonna pull up, content creators. I did that in one of my videos and I got freaking trashed for it. Caused a firestorm across the whole drama tube when I showed people's, things. But it's like literally months ago, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. I forget how long ago. It wasn't too long ago. Everyone was making alt art crash videos. We've reached the top. The bubble's finally bursting. No one actually wants these things. It was all manipulated buyouts. And it's like, yeah, they had a big run. They overran, right? They were overbought. And then they sold off a little bit because people took profits and they were a little too high. And then they stabilized. And now they're all running again. Umbreon, other ones are starting to hit all-time highs and running way past their all-time highs, getting back to their all-time highs. And it's just like, where are all the people that were saying we were in a bubble and everything's going to crash? And it's just like the same cycle over and over. Like we have different periods of ups and downs. We have different rates that things rise and different rates that things fall. But over time, we've seen a very consistent growth in this hobby.
well, and I know obviously some people will use terms interchangeably or incorrectly or use them differently, but like the one thing that we always talked about in this channel was retracing. That doesn't mean crashing as in like this is the top. So like the big thing I harped on a ton with the tag team cards was they kept going up, they kept going up, kept going up. And I was like, don't worry, they're going to retrace at some point. But when I say retrace, more or less all that means is that a lot of people consensusly, and this is just how general market cycles work, they're saying, hey, it's time to take profit. They take profit off the table. The price corrects typically, 20 to 30% in a hyper aggressive market. And then after that profit's being taken, a lot of people see it as an opportunity to get back in at a discounted rate, and then it regains its all-time highs again. So that's kind of more or less what you saw. I mean, sure, you had some that aggressively retraced to as low as 40%, but even then, most of them aggressively rebounded after they retraced really hard.
What do you
So,
think
but
causes? What do you think causes that? Do you think it's people like that are just like upset that they didn't get involved? Do you think it's people that really believe it? Why do you think there's so much of that out there, that bubble talk?
Oh, because it's always the same thing. It's when it's cheap, it's a brick and you shouldn't buy it. And then when it's expensive, I can't afford it. I'll buy it when it's cheap. It's the same. It's literally human psychology 101. Like it's just history repeating itself. People are emotional. And so they're always going to use some excuse as to why they didn't get to take advantage of the opportunity when they did, but they kept using emotional thought processes as to why they weren't ever going to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I think it's the lack of financial education in this hobby. I think
100%. Not in this
because it's
hobby,
a
in this
hobby, right?
country. In this country. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well,
Dude,
because it's a hobby, like people in this hobby, like, and that's, we get a lot, critiques always and like, hate on it because you're just turning my hobby into dollars and cents, into charts and graphs. I just want to enjoy my cards. And I get that. Like, I get it. But like the people who want to try to talk about like the ups and downs in the market and they have no financial like competency, it's kind of laughable because it's like when I see things like Bitcoin happen, right? Or Nvidia or Tesla, I don't go and start attacking people like, oh, you guys, it's all going to crash on you. You're going to lose all your money. This is a bubble. Obviously, it's a bubble. I look and I say, okay, what did I miss? And I start digging into the company and the financials and kind of listen to what people are saying and read articles. And I'm like, what did I miss that I didn't get involved and I missed out on this run, right? And people in Pokemon, they don't do that. They don't look at like where they got it wrong. They just immediately assume everyone else is wrong because they think opposite of the way they do. And that is like it's the stupidest take,
yeah, it's funny because like in high school, I had the opportunity. I was very blessed to have curriculums offered or electives offered, I should say, such as personal finance. And I tell a lot of people that, and they're like, "No way, your school offered personal finance. Mine didn't offer that at all." And so it's really like fascinating to kind of see that like, and in high school, I went to a public school, right? So it wasn't some like crazy, like fancy, like private school that my parents had to pay a ton of money for. So it is really fascinating to see that there's just really a lot. I mean, but this is just kind of what we're learning within society. A lot of people are being trained to be workers and not be independent for themselves and be. I mean, you look at U.S. consumer debt in the United States at all-time highs. I mean, we don't have to talk about this. We obviously already know this as Americans, and probably other people who know about Americans. So it's just a lack of knowledge within the in this country when it comes to proper financial management. I mean, you've got full on YouTube channels, like shout out to Caleb Hammer and some of these other people like Dave Ramsey, and their whole channels are just about, hey, let's do audits, or let's have people come on our channel and they'll tell how terrible they are with their money. And you're like, you're $1 million in debt and you're 26. How the heck are you $1 million in debt at 26? That's insane. But then you realize there's so many ways to go into debt so easily because of the way in which the financial sector is set up, and people are not properly taught how to be smart and responsible, especially too because it's so culturally accepted to be in debt that it's now like a new normal, which is horrible. Like obviously you shouldn't just go to college because you should go to college and put yourself into debt. Like you need to have intentions behind the decisions you're making.
Yeah, man, it was kind of like a sobering experience when you started to get older, like got in your 20s, and up until then you almost like always looked up to adults as like, oh yeah, they have it together, like yeah, they understand. It's like you realize, wow, most all these people that are like double my age, triple my age have no clue what they're doing. And it's just like it's kind of sad, and it's just like, man, they're in their 40s and 50s and have no clue about their finances, and they're in for a world of hurt. Oh, it's sad. It's just sad.
Yeah, it's definitely very sad to see.
But it's like in this community, it's even worse because it's a bunch of like basically children that grew up and now they're adults, but they just like some of them maybe made a bunch of money collecting something and then went through a couple booms and now they have a little bit of net worth, and they feel like they know a little something about finance and markets, and they're figuring out that they're getting a lot of things wrong now, and instead of evolve or learn more about this new market, they're just like holding on as tight as possible to their old philosophies, thinking eventually it's all going to swing back around my way, and I'm going to be right again, and everything's going to go to the moon. It's just like you have to also, that's fine if you want to go that route, but you have to also at least explore the possibility that might not happen, that you might be wrong, and you might at least want to listen to what some other people are saying to at least get an overall view and grasp, and that way you can kind of reassess your decision. If you want to make that same decision at the end, that's fine, but at least take into account what other people are showing in the data that's out there. It might help you, evolve with it.
Yeah, the data is going to show you what's happening, right? And obviously that doesn't mean like don't hear what we're not saying. Like when it comes to the market, I guess the general theme we're trying to say is be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. Obviously, that's just a general Warren Buffett thing. But yeah, just because you know you hear people say when the product's a good buying opportunity, they call it a brick. They don't buy it. When it's expensive, they don't buy it because they should have never got in. That doesn't mean you should FOMO buy. That doesn't mean, oh, well, Eli told me, that I shouldn't be emotional and like not purchase the item because I'm upset and a sore loser because I missed the boat. Like, no, that doesn't automatically mean that you should buy, because no one can predict the top. And there's certain instances in which you obviously buy the top because you're being aggressive and you're FOMOing in. I guess it's more or less just be cognizant of the trends within the hobby and try not let your emotions control you over anything, because that's when true opportunities are really made in this market, where you have the foresight to make these predictions. Because I mean, for me, like, sure, it didn't have the greatest rate of return as I would have liked. But one of the items, and Alex probably remembers this because I feel like this is something that I was getting poked fun at a little bit. But like the Charizard Ultra Premium collections, I remember when they were going for 75 on distro. And I was like, dude, these things are going to go up. And don't get me wrong, they didn't go up as fast as I would have liked. And I was off on that. Obviously, I can't predict that. But where are they right now? They're at like 150, 160, right? And so being able to pick them up for that cheap, I mean,
They're
obviously,
185. They're 185 now.
185. There you go. And that was in 2021, end of 2021, going into 2022, right? So for me, I'm able to make an over 100% rate of return in a little over a year. I'm not upset, right? Like, and depending upon, of course, when you bought it, some people might be like a year and a half, 2 years, but like that's still an incredible rate of return. considering the fact that I was expecting it to go up faster. It didn't matter. Still went up. And that was something that people kept telling me, oh, it's an absolute brick, Eli. They printed it into the ground. Like, it's a terrible buy. But in my mind, bro, it pre-sold for 300. Sure, you can say it was overinflated, but this was an item that was super high in demand. It's got a wide array of really good packs within it. It's got some cool promo cards. Like, this is an item that I feel confident in the strength of long term. Once the supply starts dwindling, you're going to watch it go up. And now you're seeing that happen currently.
Yeah, it just goes back to the conversation we just had. There's just like very little like knowledge of how these things work, and it's just like, everyone's too engaged, and I hate saying that because it's like talking against us, like it's talking against myself, right? And it's just like that's how I'm being real and honest, is because I'm literally telling you like something that is like hurtful to my like growth on YouTube, but people are too engaged with the day-to-day market swings. And they'll allow these content creators to show these 3 months, 6 months charts and like scare you into submission to where you want to sell, and they'll explain to you what like their reasoning on why everything. And it's just like, man, if you just scroll out a little bit, you're gonna see like all those little ups and downs in the year, month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. They're nothing. Like, it's kind of like when you zoom out an S&P index chart, the big crashes you can barely pick out. Like when you look at the entire chart as a whole. And it's just like having a long-term mindset, this hobby is golden. And I know it gets overstated too much, but it's just like, guys, worrying about if your investment went up in a 6-month period and worrying if you're down or up, it's the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, could you imagine if every year you got on your 401k every couple days and looked at if you're up or down? It's like, dude, you'd be wanting to sell out of your 401k like 100 times a year. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know how to like get it through to people anymore.
But so just 10 more minutes, guys, and we're going to go start into questions. We'll talk a little bit more, but just want to, of course, make sure to let everyone know if you have a question, make sure in like bold text, you say question or Q or whatever, just so that when we go through the process of looking at people's questions, it's super easy for us to find it so we can answer it for you guys. But yeah. And then for those of you guys that are new, we usually start answering questions about 45 minutes into the live. And then, of course, might as well mention it since we got almost 300 people here. Leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, really helps. Check out Alex's channel. Link down in the description below for that. Yeah, and then also as well, if you're interested in access to wholesale pricing on Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and more, make sure to message me if you got questions on Discord. Links down in the description below to join. But yeah, no, what are your thoughts right now? I kind of want to talk a little bit about it. What are your thoughts right now on alt arts? Because some of them obviously have kind of taken a little bit of what I would call a retracement. Some of them obviously more aggressive than others. But where's your kind of thoughts on that when you're looking at some of the prices? Like, it's funny. I see a lot of people talking about battle styles. I know they're more than likely talking about like the sealed product investment. But if you look at the chart for battle styles, at one point it hit 190 back in May. And right now, lowest listed seller with 50,000 stars review, it's selling for 125. So it's retraced by $75, which is a pretty significant retrace, at least over 35 to 40%. So I'm curious where you are with a lot of these. I think Fusion Strike Espeon was another one that I saw that's retraced pretty heavy.
Well, yeah, people have already like made memes about my video. So I made a video, I could find it. It's probably 2 months ago now, but I made a video really like pumping up alt arts and talking about how they were such great plays and like some of the best things you could buy right now if you're trying to make a play on singles. And it was really funny because some of the people like telling me I manipulate the market, they literally sent me screenshots of my video side by side with like things like the Brilliant Stars Charizard, and they circle the dates and they circle like the price growth, and they're like, still think you don't manipulate the market. And I'm like, well, I mean, I've been getting things right now for years. It's just now that I have a big channel, it's just like, could it be possible? Like, it's also true that maybe I can just see these things coming. Because I mean, I think it was pretty easy to see, right? We saw the alt arts come down from their all-time highs. They'd all been stagnating for a good while now, like months now. And we're seeing a tremendous growth in the hobby. We're starting to see Scarlet Violet cards become as much or more than alt arts. It only seemed right that the money was going to flow back to the alt art Sword and Shields eventually, especially as the box prices started to rise too. And so it seemed like an obvious play to me. Full disclosure, I am pumping up my own stuff. I have very many alt arts that I just graded, that I still have, that I'm sending into graded. So yes, I definitely picked up alt arts on this play. I believed in what I said, and I do it. But yeah, man, a lot of them are still down. Like, I know some have ran. Obviously, the Moonbryon, we've seen a massive increase lately on the Lugia and the Charizard. but there's still some available. I mean, we can go to Chilling Reign. I haven't checked Chilling because last time I checked Chilling, a lot of those were actually still good pickups, I thought. So like, let me look at the Blaziken and the Moltres
If
real
you don't
quick.
mind me asking or sharing with the class, where are you picking up most of your alt arts that you have currently? And then second off, are most of your alt arts that you're sending in for grading, are you sitting on them or are you flipping them?
Um, well, I'm kind of sitting on them just because I haven't had the time to actually like go through and list them and sell them. And I mean, honestly, I'm just not in a rush because I don't think it's in any like chance of going down. I do think they're going to run a little more. But where am I finding them? Usually local shops. And then if I have like time and I'm scrolling my phone and I'm just like watching TV with my wife or something, and I find someone eBay that have really clear pictures and they're clean, I'll pick some up on eBay. I'm not playing the TCG player game like where I buy a mass amount and then sell off the singles that don't grade. So it's really just local card shops or eBay, so I can really examine the condition.
Gotcha. Do you do like Facebook marketplace groups and or do like Facebook local pickups type stuff?
I should, but I don't. I just don't have the time for it. Like I want like nice clean transactions where I can just click add to cart and buy. I don't want to go back and forth messaging people and trying to figure out payment methods and delivery methods. Like I just don't these days, man. I just don't have time to deal with all that. But anyone else out there who does have more time, I absolutely suggest doing that for sure. You can find better deals.
How often would you say you're paying market price for these alt arts compared to trying to get like a discounted deal on them?
90% of the time, 95% of the time, I'm paying full market.
Okay, so there you go, guys. Alex is doing this successfully. I mean, how much? Let's. I mean, obviously, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but like, how often are you consistently like? What's your 9 to 10 ratio?
Yeah,
with
I
your
just
grading?
got an order back, and there was like an 82% 10 ratio. I had like I forget how many orders was it, 21, and I had like I don't know 15 or 16. I added it up at the time. And it was like 81% on the tens, and the ones. And here's the thing. It wasn't. It was. I only got a few nines on alt arts. The ones I got nines on were like these illustrations that I sent in. Like I tried to send in some of the higher dollar illustration rares from like Obsidian and Paldea and stuff like that, trying to hit those tens. Those are the ones that got nines. So like the alt arts have been pretty easy to grade. You can see that reflected in the pop reports. They're pretty easy to grade.
Yeah, not the Charizard though from 151. I got a 9.
Oh, you got the 9.
That was really sad. You know what? I did get a
No.
10 in. I knew this was gonna 10. I saw it in person. That's why I bought it. But I bought the Zoroark Greninja, and I graded that one, and he got a 10.
And that's a good hit right there, dude.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
was like,
something that just walked in your shop.
No, I'm not even kidding you. So funny story. I'll be short with it. But there was one of my regular customers was like, he's huge fan of the shop. He was like, you should totally. I want you to check out some of the other shops in the local area, if you're interested one time. And so we were planning on going to a card show, and he asked if he could like go to the card show with me so he could like kind of see what I was seeing, because he wanted to get my expertise since I just know so much about Pokemon. And like basically it's like almost having like, you know how like when you've got pawn shop and you've got the pawn shop guy and he's like, let me call in an expert. Imagine he's at these booths with me and I'm just sitting there like, that's a bad deal, shutting it down. Like, no, you don't want to do that. So like he asked me to go to the card show with him, and basically that's all I did. And then afterwards, he's like, I want to get your opinion on some of the other card shops in the local area because, you know, I just want I just want to hear your thoughts on it. And I won't say anything negative about the card shops that we visited or the card shop we went to. Won't say anything positive either, but that's besides the point here. I went to one of the card shops, and one of them had had the Greninja. They were selling on accident. It was mispriced in their system for 10% below market. And it just looked super clean. And so I picked it up and sent it in for grading. And I was like, dude, freaking steal. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
no,
that's
awesome.
that's the backstory of how I got the Greninja. So
and you got a 10 or?
Oh, dude, like I said, I knew it was gonna get a 10. Like I knew it was gonna get a 10 the minute I saw it. So yeah, it was super clean.
Congrats
super
on that.
clean.
Yeah, one of the big ones I got recently was the Hidden Fates Charizard as a 10. I was happy about that.
That's a good one. I got the Paldean Fates as a 10. That one's good, but not the freaking 151 one. Dude, the 151s, I don't even know if I got a 10 on any of the 151 things I sent in. I didn't send in a ton. I sent in like 5 or 6.
I mean, I just like I said, like as far as the alt arts, give you guys an idea. Like here, both my I sent in 2 Charizard Vs. They both got a 10, the alt art. I sent in 3 Alt Art Lugias. They all 3 got 10s, and I have 2 or 3 more I'm about to send. Like, the Alt Arts are just good plays. Like, you know, if you can find them clean, they grade very well. There's good margins on them. They're, you know, it's always good to be grading cards while the market's rising, because then by the time they come back, even the 9 is probably going to be profit. And so now there'll come a time, obviously, where that, you know, fizzles out too, and the money will move and things will stagnate again. But yeah, I mean, like a month and a half ago when I was making those videos, 2 months ago, it just made sense. And here's the thing: there will be other things in the market that open up. Like, there'll be a time when 151 will make a lot of sense again. Like, you know, it'll come to a point where it's just like, it looks like it's going to go on another run. Let's say this hypothetical scenario. Let's say this new box comes out next year, the 151 collection, and, you know, it drops the market a bit, and the price per pack comes down, and the singles drop because people are opening more, and everything kind of drops. And then it starts to kind of sell out, right? And we don't know when that's going to happen. It starts to kind of, you know, wash out, and everything's selling out again, and things stabilize. You start seeing things start drifting up. That's probably going to be a time to start buying up a lot of those singles, grading them, because then odds are it's going to start to rise again. The packs are going to rise, the products rise, the singles are going to follow, and then you're going to be getting your graded cards back into the strength of the new market. Those are the kind of like trends that I look for when I'm grading things.
Yeah, no, 1000%.
This is not hard. This is like elementary type stuff.
All right, it's time, baby. You ready to start answering some questions for the people?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, baby.
The people.
See if there's any early ones, just so I don't accidentally miss anyone before I start going into the big Qs. Oh yeah,
Man, I can't wait for it already. By the way, I was just thinking about that. I can't wait for all the guys. Wait for it. Everyone in here, pay attention. In about what is it? 3 months now. Or I guess 4 months. You're gonna see all the content creators making their 151 crash videos when the product gets released and the singles take a little dip and the packs take a dip. You're gonna have all the 151s crashing. It's gonna be hilarious.
We haven't even talked about that yet. Yeah, with the Blooming Waters. I mean, Blooming Waters obviously will play an effect on the market, no doubt. Just kind of like how we saw with the Crown Zenith packs, and more specifically the singles with what were they called from Sam's Club again? What were they called?
Sea and Sky.
Sea and Skies. But like, are the ETBs going down? They
were already down from a reprint.
Yeah, ETBs are going up. Like, no, it's not. It's only going to affect the single prices, and it'll probably affect the individual pack prices. But like the actual sealed product itself, it's safe. Don't expect. Which honestly, I'm not mad at though, because it's a way for them to address reprints for products so they can get more of it on the market without hurting investors. Which is honestly, I'm not saying that's what they're doing. Like I'm not saying that's why they're doing it, but I think right now it's still a smart approach because it's keeping a lot of people happy, where those people that are like, man, like I don't want them to reprint it because my 151 ETBs are going to go down or my UPCs are going to go down. Well, at least in right now from the news we know, that doesn't seem like that's going to happen. And you're also going to have people that, well, I want it to get reprinted so we can get cheaper singles. Well, guess what? This is probably what's going to happen. I would not, I mean, depending upon how much they push out, I would anticipate prices to at least drop by 20 to 30% on some of these singles. So,
dude, Pokemon's so smart. That company is brilliant what they're doing. These boxes are the answer. This is the answer to everything. They help all the players out. They help the collectors out. They make the pack prices cheaper, but they legitimize the investment potential in things like the PCETBs, the booster boxes, the UPCs, a lot of these products that are more limited that are going to see intense growth because the product itself. And honestly, man, I'm a little giddy right now. Like I'm so excited. I'm so excited for like the next 1 to 2 years because if they just do not print some of these booster boxes, I can't wait to throw it in all these people's faces who were laughing at us for buying things on release. Like, oh, you got a year, 2 years to buy those boxes. Just wait. If Pokemon continues this and they start throwing out all these ancillary products and they don't reprint the freaking booster boxes, that is going to be the biggest slap in the face to all these I'm going to wait crowd. I'm going to get a shirt that says like hashtag I'm going to wait. The I'm going to wait crowd is going to be so missed out on all the booster boxes because they thought everything was getting reprinted in the ground. And Pokemon, meanwhile, is like, no, we're not going to reprint UPCs or ETBs or booster boxes. We're just going to throw out new products and everyone can get packs and cheap cards. And everyone who bought at the beginning, you guys are safe. That would be incredible.
You know why I think the real reason why actually Alex is so excited is because we all thought this was going to potentially be a box that was going to be like a Costco exclusive or another Sam's Club or Walmart, but it ended up being something that they put on distro pages. And look who just got access to distro right in time for pre-orders. Dude, talk about the timing. That's got to feel good because you missed
Oh, it's got
Prismatic.
to. I'm gonna get at least like 2 to 4 of those things.
Yeah, exactly, bro. You got in right at the perfect time, bro.
Dude, what is up with people thinking that too? Like, oh, Alex, are you gonna start a distro program? Yeah, I'll get 5 people in there, not even to support their orders. Like, what do you guys think? I'm gonna get like allocated like I'm a long-standing account that spends like Eli? Like, what are people thinking? I'm not gonna get enough guys. And then they're like, so you're leaving Eli's program? No, like, dude, I am not gonna get anywhere near enough to support myself. I'm still gonna need Eli's program. I'm still probably gonna go to the open market on like Safari Zones and other places to get more product because I'm not gonna get near enough. Like, it's just people are just crazy, man. They don't get it.
We have a lot of people. People don't realize this. We have a lot of people in our program that have distro access, but they stick around in our program because one, they don't ever get enough. And so they'll come into our program and be able to get allocations for other things. Second off, most of these people that do have distro access, they're not doing enough volume to get discounted rates. And so some of them are paying $95.50 plus a box. And because of our negotiated pricing, you get cheaper boxes by coming to us. And then third, another reason why is because with these specific distributors, right? Like we have our distros. We have distro 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then we're going to add 5 here in a second. I'll announce that later. But within you, let's say you have one distro, right? You get access to everything with that one distro, but with our program, you get access to 3 and then soon to be 4 other distros other than the one you want. And so if you build spend within the program, you're building spend with access to items that you usually wouldn't get access to because even though you have a distro, you don't have access to all the other distros. So you can then focus on building spend within your one distro with the products that you have available and then use our program to subsidize it through getting access to other distro pages that you wouldn't have access to. And then on top of that, also be able to build allocation spend and get better pricing. So they work hand in hand a lot of times. Like the only time I've ever seen someone leave the program that doesn't have a distro is that they're a storefront and they already have access to 3 or 4 distros. But most people that are in the program usually have 1 or 2 distros that they have access to. And even then, you know, the ones that get more will still stick around because the pricing is still nice to have. And not to mention too, like, it will pay for itself for a lot of people because the membership is easily able to be outpaced if you just get access to some of the items where, you know, like if they, for example, got Blooming Waters on their account, but they were only able to get so much of Blooming Waters, they get access to it because they've got a good amount of spend. The program pays the membership and they make more money. Like the limited allocation items, it's just building allocations. Like any way you can build allocations, you're going to want to take advantage of. Like you might say, oh, I didn't get as much as you want. Doesn't matter. Getting free tendies is better than getting no free tendies, you know?
Well, I'm here. I'll just throw this out there. Like, here. Yeah, just like Eli said, yeah, that's my price, right? I'm paying like $95 a booster box, right? So even after Eli's program with shipping and all that, let's say I'm paying like $91 a box, right? And that's like $4 or more less than what I'm paying, okay? Well, for Stellar Crown, okay, Surging Spark was hard to get, but Stellar Crown, I got 20 cases. So 20 cases times 6 boxes a case is 120 boxes, right? Times $4 I'm saving per box. That's $480 I saved on one set being in his program, not buying from like my distributor or somewhere else. So it's just like, it still makes sense for me to be in there, guys. Like, yeah, I can get ETBs and bundles and things like that from my distributor at a reasonable price, but it's just like booster boxes are still going to be expensive to me. And right now it still makes sense for me to order from my distributor. But let's say we go back to a time like we were in, you know, a year and a half ago where boxes are, you know, $85, $90 in Safari Zone. Well, I'm not going to want to pay $95 a box because now it's not, you know, it's not as good. So it's just like, it's always good to have a million options open. You don't have to always use every option, but to build relationships and have options open, it's always going to be in your favor.
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest benefit that you're going to get from getting your own distro, other than building your own allocations, is with a lot of distros, and specifically the one that he got access to, they will tend to limit the products, which can be a huge pain in the butt. However, within our program, we obviously have to limit it to every individual because it's limited per account. Whereas with you, since you have your own account, you are the one that gets to choose like what you do with all the limited product. It's not having to be subject to other individuals. So that will give you at least, more flexibility to not have to worry about, am I going to get allocated on this limited product, because you're the account holder, which is going to be a huge asset to you for sure. So,
And I have to say this, guys, I don't get anything for being in Eli's program. I don't have like an affiliate revenue. I don't get paid. I'm not part of it. So
do you even, I don't even think you have a link in your own channel to affiliate. I see you have affiliate links at the bottom of your channel, and our wholesale program is not even linked there.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm not, and I've shared it with people, and they've come out and asked me about it, but it's just like, I'm not trying to like sell anyone. I'm just telling you guys my honest truth. So, take it for what it is.
All right. Question times, baby. They just announced Black and White 2 sets in Japan for June. Looks more and more like Team Rocket is going to be a specialty set.
I don't want to talk about it.
That's going to suck, bro. That's going to suck, bro.
It's so bad, man. Dude, Pokemon's got problems. They have legitimate problems.
Isn't that so fantastic? 5-10 minutes ago, you go from like, Pokemon, such a smart company. They're just doing it right, making everyone happy. And you're like, bro, they got problems. They suck. What are they doing? It's such a roller coaster of emotions.
I'm just trying to, what I would love? I'd love to sit on I'd love to like hear their financials and understand, like, do they really make more money on Prismatic than they do Surging Sparks?
You have to wonder, because at least when it comes to my own tickets, it's way higher with booster box sets.
Right. So it's just like, if you can make more money with a mainline set, why would you not put your best sets as mainline sets?
Probably because they have to print significantly more packs for booster box sets. And so it probably, I mean, this is super hypothetical. So the production rate is probably so much higher. So it probably takes a lot less. Because think about it, like with ETBs, you're only printing 9 packs, whereas with booster boxes, you're printing 36 packs.
But it still has to be more expensive to produce, though. Like the box, the dice, the coins, the energies.
I mean, potentially, but that's also another thing we're not pulling back from behind the scenes in terms of the production value, because it wouldn't surprise me if there is a kind of a sweet spot for them in terms of like production times and producing times. And then on top of that too, like when it comes to specialty sets more often than not get printed into the ground. Like Shining Fate got printed 4 different times. Like it was insanely printed. Crown Zenith has seen multiple different ETB reprints, multiple different product reprints. And 151, obviously it's a lot higher of a demand set, but like it shortly after it came out, got an ETB and a UPC reprint. And now we're also seeing this box that's going to help bring down singles and individual pack prices. So like, maybe in their mind, they're looking at it and they're saying we can get more out to the public because we're going to be able to print. I don't know. But that's my only kind of rationale behind all of this. But yeah, it definitely is a little bit of disappointment. But let's be honest here, at least for me, part of the reason why is because from a performance perspective, we do tend to see booster boxes for these specialty sets. I say specialty, but like unique sets do so well. Like Evolutions is a perfect example of that. Like obviously Evo got addressed with heavy prints, but like it's performed so well and the singles are so cheap. So Evolving Skies. And so it'd be nice to have one of these really cool sets, because like when was the last time we realistically had one? Like in the Sun and Moon era, right? Like don't get me wrong, Cosmic, I guess you could say was that, but like they just introduced character rares. That wasn't anything, I guess, necessarily unique. It was a fantastic set. But when I think special sets, I think like legendary treasures where they added like Radiance and like there was these gold Pokemon you could get, or, I think of Evolutions where it was like a master reprint of all these really cool cards that people loved that made it unique, or like Team Rocket set. That's kind of what I guess comes to mind. And it feels like it's been a while since we've really gotten one of those.
It's going back to what we said at the very beginning of this, not the beginning, but the middle of this like stream, is like being slow to get angry and like looking back and trying to figure out why. The only thing I can think of is maybe we're out of the loop. Maybe like this investing like community is out of the loop, and maybe there is just more demand for those specialty sets. Like maybe that is what the regular people, like the average consumer, like the regular casual hobbyist want. And maybe that's data that we don't have that Pokemon does. I don't know. Because I haven't talked to a single person in this entire hobby and this side of things that wants a specialty set over a booster box ever. ever. And so there's got to be a reason they do this. I don't know what it is. It makes zero sense to me, but I'm sure there's a reason because, again, like we said, Pokemon's a smart company. They got to have a reason for what they do, I'm sure.
I hope the black and white set's gonna be good, dude. Cause I'm a huge black and white fan. I mean, Gen 4 is my favorite, but like Gen 5, I really liked. So I hope they do it. I hope it's a good one. So, but yeah, I mean, here's what I'm thinking. Regardless, we are in a time period where we're in the second half. We've been talking about this forever, guys, since the beginning. And guess what? The minute the next generation comes out, we'll probably start talking about the second half too of that next generation.
Should we get an argument? Let's get an argument.
Oh, do people want us to fight? Are we doing?
Dude, I got something I can fight with you about.
Oh God, yeah, come on, man!
I made a video about it yesterday.
Oh, what is it?
Okay, dude, this whole thing about the second half of eras being the best is a lie.
Oh, is it?
It is. The data shows it.
In what regard?
So obviously XY is different, but obviously all the most expensive sets: Flashfire, Phantom Forces, XY base, and Fury's Fist are the most expensive, but also Ancient Origins, right? So Evolutions, Steam Siege, Fates Collide, Breakpoint. None of those are anywhere near the most expensive. It's all the mid-era sets that are doing well in the early ones. You go to Sun and Moon, that's the only era that really holds up, right? Because you have Cosmic and you have Team Up. But Unbroken Bonds and Ununified Minds are starting to be caught up to and overtaken by things like Celestial Storm, Lost Thunder, and Ultra Prism. They're like the same price, if not more, meaning the mid-era is still doing as good or better than the late. Then you go to Sword and Shield, all the best sets came in the middle. Chilling Reign, Fusion Strike, Evolving Skies, that's 6, 7, and 8. And so it's like, dude, we're in a time where people like are overlooking this. There's a possibility Twilight and Surging could be some of the top performers in this era. Like, other than Lost Origin performing well, Silver, Astral, and Brilliant are getting way overtaken by the middle era sets. So it's like, I don't know if the late era is always going to be the best investment, man.
Well, okay, maybe there's a poor interpretation, I guess, of what we mean by this. But like, let me ask you this. Do you like the tag team era better or worse than the first half of the Sun and Moon? I'm not talking about from an investment perspective.
I like tag team better, but I don't think I like the trainer galleries better. I'll tell you why. The trainer gallery era, they didn't make the sets better. What they did is they shrunk the alt arts down and they just added some good hits to the trainer gallery. So now it's like the same amount of hits. Like you have maybe 3 or 4 trainer galleries you want and 3 or 4 alt arts. Whereas Chilling Reign, Fusion Strike, Evolving Skies, they all have like 8, 9, 10 awesome alt arts. So it's like, I don't know if they really made it better. They just made it like different.
Well, that's a little different though, because like Sword and Shield era doesn't have like a true definitive like second half in the same way, because it was broken up into 3 parts. Because you had the first 4 sets or 5 sets, I can't remember how many it was, that didn't have alt arts, period. So I guess the question would be, would you prefer the Rainbow Rare first half or when they introduced alt arts? Obviously, right. You like the alt arts, right? So when we say
and definitely tag teams, obviously.
Yeah. So when we say second half, it's not literally second half, but usually when you see a new set come out, it's very or a new generation come out, it's very copy paste. You've got your base set. You've got your super competitive like set that they print into the ground.
What about XY though?
Singles, and then you've got your third set which is the Charizard set. And so typically that's what you see with every new generation, right? You've got Obsidian Flames, you've got Darkness Ablaze, you've got Burning Shadows, you've got Flashfire. Like, you look at the last 4 generations, all of them had Charizard sets within the past 4. That doesn't mean that you can't invest in some of these early sets, as we've seen with Obsidian. Like, everyone hates Obsidian, but it's performing really well right now as a box. But
even XY's middle era is better. I mean, dude, wouldn't you rather have Primal, Roaring, Breakthrough, and Ancient over Breakpoint, Fates, Steam Siege, and Evolutions?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. But like I said before, it's like a general rule, and this is the point that I'm trying to make. It's a general rule that when a new generation comes out, usually the first 5 or 6 sets are usually like duds and are very like, I'd be willing to bet money at this point that next generation, within the first 3 to 4 sets, one of them is going to be a Charizard set. Because that's how it's been the past 4 generations, which 4 generations is now going back 10 years. So it's not necessarily saying like, oh my God, Like you can invest in these first half era sets. I mean, Paldea has been fantastic. We love Paldea Evolved. It's great, but it's more or less to say that when it comes to the hobby, the hype and anticipation usually doesn't come till later, right? The hype and anticipation came in Sword and Shield when I would argue Chilling Reign came. Like Battle Styles, don't get me wrong, people were excited for alternate arts, but like Chilling Reign really brought a lot of hype back into the market because a lot of people loved the like the expansiveness of the amount of alt arts. Battle Styles was just a little bit of a tease. But Battle Styles, what is Battle Styles like? Like Sword and Shield 6? Sword and Shield 7? Like that's not second half. I mean, actually technically is. It's like right before second half, but you get what I mean. Like the point I'm illustrating is it's just a general like, hey man, as the sets get older and older, you start to look at it, or as the generation gets older and older, you start to look at it and say, all right, I start to like it more. Because EX era, right? Like the EX era, undoubtedly speaking, like I would argue that people say, if you ask them what's your favorite part of the EX era, it's the gold star cards. The gold star cards are what people liked. And if you look at it within the set, if I'm correct, they were introduced during Deoxys, which was literally like the sixth or fifth set introduced. And there was like 12 or 13 sets in total. So it was right at the midway point, or right before the midway point, that you started to see the gold stars be introduced,
Well,
right?
I know you can pick. What I'm saying is, I know you can pick out instances, but what I'm saying is not always true. Like, dude, some of the most valuable cards in all of XY are middle and early. Like some of the up until recently, up until this last run, the most expensive cards in Sun and Moon were like, you know, the Charizard GX Rainbow Rare from Burning Shadows, or like that the Mewtwo, Shining Mewtwo from, you know, Shining Legends. Like it's like it hasn't always been. And then it was the Charizard GX from Hidden Fates, but it hasn't always been dominated
I
by the
mean,
last four.
here's my thing. I'm gonna go through and start asking you some questions, right? And listen, I'll secede to you on XY because I can easily see that as being a potential argument if you're someone that likes Phantom Forces.
What about
and
Sword and
like
Shield?
Flash Fire, but like Sword and Shield. Oh yeah, dude, are you kidding me? Yeah, it's great
The
because
last,
Sword
you
and
think the
Shield.
last four sets are better than the middle?
No, no, no. See, this is where the disconnect's coming. I'm not saying the last four sets, but I'm saying that what Pokemon does is in August, they have Pokemon Worlds. And when Pokemon Worlds happens, they make announcements for the new art designs that they're going to introduce in their new sets. And so when that happens is when you start to see a drastic change within the landscape of things, right? EX era, it was introducing gold stars. In the platinum or the diamond pearl era, it was introducing shiny reverse hollows and then introducing the half legend cards. And then, of course, Call of Legends, which was a part of that, which was the first ever shiny set everyone loved. Black and white era, it was the plasma cards and legendary treasures, right? Arguably, I mean, depending upon how you want to look at it, XY era, it was Ancient Origins, Roaring Skies, Generations, which people loved Generations because that was just basically a remaster of Legendary Treasures, and then Evolutions. Then you also look at the Sun and Moon era, obviously,
So,
Unbroken Bonds, Unified Minds, Team Up, Hidden Fates, Cosmic. Like,
all right. So when you're looking at Scarlet Violet, then my question is, what are we there? Is Surging Sparks part of the later era?
so I would say, and this is just me, talking from the technicals. I would say that Stellar is the start of it. And the reason why I say Stellar is the start of it, it might seem weak right now, but
Those rainbows.
it's the rainbows. Exactly. Exactly. It's the introduction of the new art style is when I see it as something being a part of a new generation. Because if you listen to everything I said within the EX era, I didn't say, oh, it was this set. I said, no, it was when this art design was introduced. Gold stars were introduced. Reverse hollow shinies were introduced.
Yeah.
Alt arts were introduced. Tag teams were introduced. This new rainbow border design with Scarlet and Violet was introduced. It's these art designs. That's why if you look at like the first ever generation, don't get me wrong, like you can easily say, oh, dude, the booster boxes are worth way more with Neo Genesis and base set. But if you ask people, what are your favorite sets? So many people would say, oh, dude, I'm a huge fan of like the trainer sets when they introduced the trainers within like Gym Hero, Gym Challenge, Team Rocket. Like those were my favorite. And those are the back half sets that were a part of the WotC, the introduction to like Gen 1 WotC. Doesn't mean that, of course, base isn't worth significantly more or there isn't some value there, of course. But when they introduced Pokemon that had the little trainer icon in the bottom, it was a big deal and people loved it because they felt like they were owning that trainer. It's Pokemon.
Yeah. Hey, do two things. One, there's a super chat, and two, multiple people have asked if you do the program for Canada.
We don't at this time. We want to do it really bad, but right now we've had so many people we've tried making it work with, but it ultimately ends up not working for a lot of those people because you have to have like here, if you want to join the program and try it out, I'm more than happy to, but I like to discourage it unless I think you'd be a good fit. That's why I always tell people before you join the program, message me on Discord. Let me set up a phone call with you so I can tell you if it's worth it. Because I want to make sure that you're joining the program for the right reasons and you're getting the value out of it. And the sad thing is with Canada, because we don't ship directly because it's too expensive, we always tell people to find a middleman provider. And a lot of times the middleman providers still don't cut costs enough to where it's worth it. So that's kind of why we generally discourage it. Like if you have a middleman provider and you're like, Eli, I've got a middleman person that you can ship to that's in the States and then they'll ship to me in Canada, I'd be more than happy to allow you to join the program. But, we don't directly ship to other countries. So if you are joining the program and you don't reside within the US, you're going to need to find a middleman service provider in order for that to happen. And then super chat, before we go into the super chat, is there something you kind of want? Did you get, I guess, where I'm coming with that? It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. They're probably more fun to open. I just like the investment potential. Like, I just don't want people to miss out on like Surging or Twilight or like Paldea in hopes that they're like waiting for this like great set to come at the end. It's like it might be one of those things where some of these other sets might be some of the top performers.
Right. And here's, I guess, what I want.
But they may be less fun to open though.
Here's what I want people to understand. And this is, you're hearing it from me first. I've talked about it. Paldea Evolve is one of my favorite sets that they've come out with so far. And it was the second set they came out with. That doesn't mean that because it's a first half, doesn't mean it's not investable. Obviously, we can see so many different examples of that. What it does mean, though, is that when it comes to the general hype within the hobby, the hype of the hobby usually comes when you have a reintroduction or an I shouldn't say reintroduction, sorry, an introduction of a new art style or a new type of design of how they push out Pokemon cards. And that's when hype comes into the hobby. And so because of that, you tend to see a lot more opportunities or a lot more demand for sets when that happens, right? It might not be represented in the long term because in the long term, who knows? Paldea Evolved, this might sound crazy now. It could perform better than, Surging Spark. Sounds crazy now, but what happens if Surging gets printed in the ground? And while that happens, Paldea doesn't get a single set or a single set print. Do I think Rebel Clash is a better set right now than Fusion Strike? Of course not. But Rebel Clash got significantly printed less than Fusion did. And so there was still money to be made if you're someone that got in Rebel. But more or less, the point that I'm saying is if you ask most people when that reintroduction or that introduction occurs within the generation for that new art design, which is usually the midway point to the back half of a new cycle, that's when you start to see people get the most hyped, the most excited. So, like I said before, you can make money on both ways, but more consistently than not, Pokemon likes to save the best for the new art designs when they are introduced within the generation. Does that seem like a fair statement to make?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, except other than XY is a weird one. Like, what they? I guess the gold borders.
XY. See, that's why I said I can concede on XY because
it was the gold. Was it the gold borders though? You think?
Well, XY. So XY had evolutions. It had generations Radiant, which Radiant, like people liked Radiant.
But
Radiant
that wasn't introduced. That was Legendary Treasures.
Right. No, Legendary. Are you talking about XY or Black and White?
No, what I'm saying is like that wasn't like that was like a reintroduction. I think it's the gold because there wasn't secret rares in the beginning of XY. I think they introduced the gold secret rares.
Oh, you're asking the question like what was it that they specifically introduced? Yes, that is correct. That is correct. It was the gold secret rares that they introduced.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, like obviously the tag team sets and
which that one though, that one's a little interesting because and this is why people, I know you might disagree with me or a lot of people in this, but most people think XY is the weakest of the generations in terms of the card art era. A lot of people felt like it was super lackluster.
I've been fighting for XY for years.
I know, especially too, because if you do look at like the quote unquote second half, there isn't really anything that distinguishes it from being like a standout second half other than, you've got like these gold border cards, Which
Also, the hit rates are too easy. You can pull a full set in one case.
yeah, that too. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't as like saturated with so many hits. So like it was a lot more condensed down. So it was pretty easy to get most of the hits. I mean, if you look at like Phantom Forces, for example, right? Phantom Forces, your top hits are obviously the Silver Dialga. Then it's the regular Gengar EX, the Mega Gengar, and then the other Gengar full art. And so it's like, okay, sure you could hit them like the mech trick, but it's like that was really it. That's all people were chasing. Versus with current generations, especially Sword and Shield era, like there's so many things that people are chasing after.
Yeah, I think honestly, like that's one of the things I liked about XY. Is like I kind of like opening things to where you're gonna be more likely to hit the card you want. Where it's like the newer stuff, it's like it's so hard to hit the actual card you want. Like you're gonna get a bunch of hits, don't get me wrong, but to hit the actual cards you want, it's so hard. Where XY, it's just like you open a couple boxes, you're probably gonna get the cards you want, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So I like
so,
that aspect.
So here's an interesting one. Man, yeah. So I guess if we're going off of it, when you're talking about the introduction of like these gold cards, would you consider, I know this is kind of off topic here. I mean, would you consider the Mega Ray Quasar from Ancient Origins that kind of like gold border card? Because I feel like if you look at the designs, it looks so different compared to the break ones, like the Breakpoint and Breakthrough. Like if you look at the art design, the Mewtwo looks kind of different, and so does the like Gyarados. So I don't know if I would consider it, right?
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, so that's where it's kind of one of those weird ones because I could easily see someone making an argument saying Ancient Origins was like, sure, it was one of the later sets, but it was part of the first half of like the older art designs before they introduced the gold ones. Because that's the thing, Ancient's one of my favorites. I think Ancient.
Yeah. If those first four sets would have got reprints and like they would have got printed the level the later sets did, I think Ancient could have been the top set in that.
1000% agree. Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, this might be a hot take. Don't get me wrong. Flash Fire is definitely the best of the Charizard sets over the past 4 generations. But like, I don't know. But I feel like we say this with every Charizard set. You know, it's overrated. Like it shouldn't be, but like it's Charizard, bro. Stop doubting the Charizard, bro. Yeah. All right, let's answer the super chat now. Anthony, thank you as always, dude. Shout out to Anthony. Always one of the OGs, always one of the guys that's hooking us up. Eli, Alex, my hope with Prismatic is that I can produce enough gains to have 0 cost. I'm at 100 ETBs with an average cost of $70.40. He says part 2. Oh my God. Do you know where his part 2 is?
Oh man.
You're going to have to look at it for me and tell me what the timestamp was it.
Or was that part 2? I don't see anything under that.
Maybe look for a part 1. Gosh, I'm so sorry, Anthony.
I'm not seeing it, man. We'll just take that.
Oh man,
Anthony, leave it in the chat right now if you remember again.
Yeah, yeah. Just copy and paste it to the bottom, and we'll jump to it.
Yeah.
All right.
But
next,
question. It does look like they're going to be released at around 100 plus. So
are you kidding me?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
It's crazy.
That's crazy, dude.
The PCETBs, dude. Eli, the tins, the mini tins, they're selling for almost $400.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Wait, hold on. Did I get that right? That's hold on. Let me make sure I said that right. This set is unlike anything.
So wait, hold on. So let me get this straight. So if I'm to understand this correctly, if you get 1 case of Prismatic, if you bought it at wholesale, which is about $300, you're making $700 on the ETB. Holy shit.
Yeah, ETBs, they're pre-selling at 104, and then the mini tins, dude, they're $279.79 for a display case. What do those cost? Like, what are those distro, like $40, $50?
52 to 56 a display.
So that's 5-6 times?
And this is for the display or the case?
The display, like the 10 display. And then the surprise box, that box that MSRPs on Pokemon Center for like $22.99. It's like what, 13 and 14 at distro? Dude, it's $65.
Yeah. I mean, here's my thing, man. Regardless of what we end up finding out with numbers for Prismatic, 2 things that I want to say. First and foremost, it's a specialty set. If you want to get at a cheaper price, please wait because it will get printed again. Prices will come down. Second off, if you are someone that is able to get your hands on a prismatic ETB, or you're able to get in for cheaper earlier, like congrats off to you. Because that was something I was concerned about with even in my own program. I mean, I've been super like outspoken about this. Like if you're just joining the program to get prismatic, first and foremost, deadlines pass, so you wouldn't even be able to pre-order it. Second off, if you're just joining to just order prismatic, you might as well leave now because you got to spend if you want to get access to stuff. But if you just get access to one ETB case in the program, that's going to pay for 4 to 5 months of you being in the program. If you're one of our newer members with our new price, if you've been in the program for a while, you got the grandfather pricing at like 110, 100. That's going to be at least 6 to 7 months paid for just by the profits. So that's insane, bro.
Let me read Anthony's part two. His part two was roll the funds into the next 2 sets and try to repeat the next 2 stupid plan or good plan, thoughts, pros and cons.
I like that idea personally. That's just me because I think that specialty sets tend to be much more prone to getting reprints compared to booster box sets. Like you'll see the print runs, like we already talked about it earlier with Shining Fates. So for me, I like that idea, especially too, because we don't know like, don't get me wrong, it could end up becoming more money like a couple weeks after release in the same way surging has. But for me, I'd at least take profit knowing that I'm not going to leave money on the table because the hype for this set is so unruly right now. I mean, surging, right? Surging was pre-selling for 115, 120 at this point from when the set was supposed to release. So the fact of the matter is this set is pre-selling for 100% over what the MSRP is, whereas the MSRP price for surging was higher than what it was being sold for at this time, significantly still. So this one definitely seems like it's primed to just have a correction at some point. More specifically, the correction will come when the supply comes. So it just feels a lot riskier compared to surging, where surging is a little different because surging started off so low and you were able to get in for so cheap. And then on top of that too, the surging word as well was they got significantly less at distro than they did for stellar. And so it had me to believe that, all right, unless there's a second wave coming at some point, you don't really need to sell yet until that kind of, signal happens. But with ETBs, they're a lot more aggressive with their reprints. So it just feels a lot more safe if you were doing this exact same thing with surging compared to prismatic. I don't know what your thoughts are, Alex.
Yeah, I'm good with that, man. Like sell some, not all. I got caught without any 151 ETBs because I was under the impression they would get some big reprints and I'd be able to move in. And I was one of the I was the I'm gonna wait crowd. And then I like the idea of getting down to 0 cost basis, keep the rest. You don't need to sell them all because you just never know. Like you just never know what's gonna happen. They're gonna print different products. They're gonna have a huge reprint. I mean, it's just like I'm always a fan of keeping something these days. But get down to 0 cost basis, use the profits, roll into something else. And,
I mean, kind of like what I've been doing with surging is literally, here's what I'm doing. I am listing it slightly above what market is. And then when it hits market, I sell some of it. And then I slightly raise it again, and then I sell some of it, and slightly raise it again and sell some of it. So that way, as the prices continue to climb, I'm not just selling all of it all at once. I'm waiting until it gets to that point, then selling some of it, noticing that the market has raised, and then continuously trying to be ahead of it. And then if hypothetically speaking, we get word of surging reprints, then that becomes the transitional shift where I do the inverse, where I sell 10% below the current market so I can get rid of it because the price gradually went up and I took my, profits off the table as it continued to climb, but I'm not doing it all at once, like quickly get rid of all of it. Like I'm slowly selling it off as it slowly continues to rise. So I'm taking profit along the way.
And this is why I'm so bullish on the long-term growth of the market is because everyone who ends up with like I talked about every growth cycle, there's always a wave of people that sell off. Like there's people selling off Sword and Shield right now. There'll be more people selling off Sword and Shield when it hits 3, 4, 500. Very few people will have Sword and Shield by the time it gets to later higher hundreds and 1,000 plus a box on most. And the good part about that is it'll either be ripped or it'll be in the hands of the whales. And everyone who's a whale, they have the same mindset as me and Eli and people like Rudy and those guys where they're not going to ever crash the market. They're not going to like release large amounts. They're going to slow it off, sell it slowly and surely, maybe some public, a lot of it's going to be private sales, and they're just going to slowly leak it out, and the market will never see an effect from it. That's the way you want it to be. You don't want it to be someone who's got paper hands and they're like, oh my gosh, I got to dump like 100 cases, and it like crashes the market. Everyone's freaking out. Where all the supply coming from? There's a reprint, restock. It's like, you don't want the product being in those people's hands. And so, yeah, I think it's a good thing.
1000%, baby. Not really a Pokemon question, but I might as well answer it. Question, Eli, do you have a cold or hoping on TRT? A lot deeper voice this week than last.
TRT.
I'm not on TRT, but if I'm looking bigger, bro, let's go. The gains are working. I'm going to the gym. Yes. So if I sound weird to some of you all, I do apologize. I have been quite sick. If I'm being honest, I've worked every day for the past over a month at this point. So it's been really crazy here. I mean, dude, the wholesale program keeps breaking records. Like in the month of September, we did 450,000 in sales that month. And then last month we did 600,000. And right now it's Tuesday. We've already done $180,000 this week as of Tuesday. So like I say that we're Tuesday. So anyway,
what's the main things that are selling?
Well, so I don't know if I necessarily want to call it a reprint, right? But there was a huge restock that did happen on distro pages where a lot of distros have been offering Obsidian Flames and Paldea Evolve boosters. And so if you look at
right?
Not even the bundles. I mean, yes, there's been the bundles, but like distro 2, for example, right? They've been selling them for like 115, 120, I think, a booster box, which doesn't seem bad, but like when market's 145 right now, a lot of people are still able to move them and make money off of it. And then also as well, another big thing, so many people I feel like sleep on sleeved, but like there's so much money to be made in sleeve packs. And this has been something that's been true since this beginning of the program. I mean, there were so many people that made money off of LO sleeved because they were buying it for like 340 and then selling it on eBay for 500 plus. So you've seen so many people pick up sleeve temporal, sleeve twilight. I mean, there were a lot of people in the program that were picking up sleeve twilight for like 350, 360. And now it's at 430 and people are still picking it up because there's still money to be made on it. So a lot of people, I would say, are taking advantage of that resupply of Obsidian and Paldea, and then just a lot of the sleeve boosters, and then some miscellaneous items here or there are like special bundles, like the surging bundle they're offering with like the Charizard thing, but it's a limit item. So it's not like,
hey, it's a
crazy amount of it.
It's almost like what's happening was what we told people all along, right? Is the reason you're not going to see these boxes go down to the 90s, guys, is because this is what distros do. They're going to sell them to you at higher prices. So it's not going to crash the market. And this whole idea that, wait till a reprint comes, they're going to crash. How are they going to crash? Are stores going to buy them at 115 and sell them at a loss at 90? Like, think before you guys just like make plays in this hobby. It's very simple if you really understand.
Well, it just goes back to the saying like rising tides raise all ships. Like when I mean, dude, Paradox was sitting at distro for $86 forever. No one wanted it. I now have people in the program buying it for 95, which, I mean, it's still a good price compared to like the TCG market, but people can't get enough of Paradox now because it's slowly going out of stock at distro. And so as it keeps going out of stock at each distro, you start to see the market shift reflect the price of it increasing, and then the price in which people are willing to pay for it, because they're recognizing that as soon as Paradox goes out of stock on distro, the prices for the market are going to go up and skyrocket.
Have you seen Temporal, by the way?
Oh God, what's it doing now?
I want to get your take on that. So like, you've obviously paid attention to all your distros. I haven't paid attention as closely, but just from my own experience, right? I just know from just talking to people, from collections that have been offered to me, just from like looking at the overall market, Temporal has always seemed so much more scarce than the other sets. Like, and it's finally starting to reflect that in the price. Because even in your program, it seems like Temporal was out before most every other set was. So like, what do you think about that? Was there just like less of that or what?
Well, so I can tell you that from at least a bundle perspective and from a print run perspective, from what I was told by my distros, they had significantly more Paradox. There was still a good amount of Temporal available, but it was so much more Paradox. I mean, I don't want to like, get myself in trouble or get anyone else in trouble. Yeah. But like we had we had like pictures, and I won't say which distro it was, but we had pictures of like warehouse quantities that they had for Paradox that just in like one distro accumulated over 20,000 booster boxes for Paradox. And I think I said that to people because someone made a video. I can't remember who it was, but someone had made a video saying like, oh, no, no, no. Okay. I won't say who it is. I remember now, but somebody made an announcement saying you should buy now from us because distro's out of all these booster boxes. So now's the time to purchase before it's too late. And I remember in response to that, I posted in my chat because people pinged me on it a screenshot of it showing 20,000 booster boxes of Paradox. I said, yeah, that person is just totally pushing FOMO. So I don't know what they're talking about. And I had another screenshot and it was temporal. It was only like 2 or 3 boosters. That's not to say that there couldn't have been the same amount as temporal as Paradox, but I don't think that's true. From what I heard, Paradox was pretty more. I think the demand was just so much higher for temporal. And so it's just getting eaten up so much faster. So because temporal is like people look at temporal compared to Paradox, and they say temporal is the slightly better version of Paradox. There's more to like in it, which I mean to a certain extent, I can totally see that.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so temporal's finally just, I mean,
Like,
temporal's finally taking off. Like it's been out of distro, like most distros, I would say, for probably the past month now. And so it's finally making its run now that the market is realizing that it's scarce at distro pages. Whereas Paradox, on the other hand, Paradox is just now starting to finally go out of stock at distros. And so you're going to start to see a huge run up on Paradox probably here in the next 3 to 6 months. I mean, like I said before, man, after holiday season, wait until March. It'll be interesting to see what happens if we don't get more supply for any of those boosters. They're going to make moves.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I like Temporal's top hits better, but I think Paradox is probably like a deeper set. It's got more like good hits. But yeah, I just like Temporal's with the Iron Crown, the Raging Bolt. Like, I don't know. I just like the top hits a little better.
I mean, they're cool sets. I'm just a sucker for the Groudon. The Groudon's my favorite card.
Oh yeah,
so I love that Groudon.
One of the top ones in the era.
I never answered his question though. Yes, I do have a cold, sadly. Like I said before, I've been working a lot and so it's kept me busy. And so I've gotten sick because I'm working more than I would like right now but that's a good thing, right? Business is busy. I can't be mad. And so I was actually telling Alex before the stream, I was freaking out because on Friday I lost my voice completely. Like I could not talk. Like I was literally just ASMR, like my reps, and my reps were like, dude, just freaking text me. Like I can't do this right now. Cause I was trying to talk and they're like, I can't hear you. And so by Sunday night, I still hadn't gotten my voice yet. And so I was like freaking out. And yesterday I finally was like having the strength to be able to talk again. I was like kind of going in and out like every so often. But today I was like, oh, thank God. I might sound like crap, but I got to give the people their content, man. I can't just not show up because everyone, especially too, you guys will give me so much crap. You'd be like, oh, Eli, another excuse why he's not here for a stream. It's like, bro, I'm pushing through for you guys, man. I'm trying my best here. So, but
dude, I'm like, I'm so worried about that all the time. And I'm trying to like, eat healthy and get like, just like vitamins and stuff in my diet because my sleep schedule with all these streams has been brutal. Like last night I was streaming until 2 a.m. and then I was back up this morning at like 7 to, start packing orders and things. And now we're like tonight, it's getting so wild where my sleep schedule's so thrown off. And so like, I'm always worried about getting sick because of that.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is, and I've talked to people about this a lot already, so people already know. I'm in the process of looking for a home, and I was talking to my buddies, and he's like, "Yeah, they say owning a home it's one of the top 5 most stressful things in your life is the process of looking for it." So I'm like, sick. That's why I feel.
Dude,
so
it's
like,
not. That's such a lie.
I mean, it feels stressful though. It does feel stressful because
I make fun of my parents all the time for that. Like
for buying,
they made it sound like it was such like a huge responsibility. I'm just like, maybe it was for you guys. Like, man. I feel like we barely, I mean, other than like keep the lawn mowed.
Here's why it's stressful for me. I don't know. When did you buy your home?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. So a couple things. One, you bought what, 2019?
Well, no, just take pricing. I'm just saying like home ownership in general. It's not that stressful.
No, he's talking about the process of buying a home.
Oh yeah, it sucks.
Not owning a home. The process of buying a home is the most stressful. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, once you own a home, then all that weight is like lifted unless you're like in over your head and your debt to income ratio is way higher. That's a whole different thing. But yeah, no, the process of going through and trying to look at purchasing a home is one of the most stressful things. And the thing that's killing me the most is, I've said this before, I take every dime I have, I reinvest it back in the business. So it's been so stressful because I'm like, all right, do I liquidate some of my items? Do
Just
I
sell all
just
the junk behind you.
yeah, right, exactly. Who has sentimental feelings about these things? Who cares? It's just cardboard. But like, yeah, no. So for me, it's been super stressful because I've I've got a good amount of inventory for the shop built up. And so I think I should be good on that part. But there's so many reprints that are coming for Magic. And I'm like, all right, if I get 100% fill for what I asked for the Ixalan reprint, I'm going to have 20 grand I'm going to have to put. And then there's a Bloomburrow reprint. And then there's a Lord of the Rings reprint. And so there's so many things that I'm like, there's a free opportunity here to make money. There's an opportunity here to make money. And so it's like the constant endeavor of a business owner trying to make sure that I'm constantly taking my money and having it work for me. But then it feels painful because I don't want to miss out on these opportunities, but I need to like kind of pull back on the reins because I need the liquidity to be able to put the money down for a down payment on a home. So it's very stressful trying to kind of balance all of this out, especially too while you're in a time frame because right now is a good time to buy because rates seem to be finally coming down a little bit after they were raised. And it's obviously not as competitive of a time of year because, but anyway, we're getting off topic here. We've already been going for an hour and a half and we've only answered like 3 questions. Super chat, babies. J Smooth 41. Thank you so much for the $10. That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much. I have one sleeve pack of the most popular Pokemon from each set, starting black and white, treasure surging. Once SV ends, I'm going to frame them in one frame. I need one starting price for the frame. That's sick, dude. Dude, I've always wanted to do something like that. I know a lot of people do like artworks of it with the wrappers, not the actual like sealed pack, but that's so sick. I think that's really cool.
I need help on a starting price. I wouldn't even know.
Yeah, I don't know much about frames, especially too.
I'm sure like Hobby Lobby or something like that. They might have something.
Yeah.
Or I'll just go to Amazon,
Yeah, I haven't done.
Oh, I know someone. Doesn't Pokevault? I think Pokevault has frames like that for packs and things. He might, and then he like did a video where he like, it was a while ago where he like showed off his whole like room and like left links to everything he got. He might be a good source to like go see what kind of frames he had and bought because I just don't have anything like that.
Yeah, neither do I, sadly. I wish I could help you. The biggest thing I've seen a lot of people do is, like those glass coffee tables and like people will have like, they'll have like inside of it, like, oh, look, I completed this like this puzzle. And then they'll use it as like the underlying thing below the glass that's being displayed. I know a lot of people have done that, but that's about as far as I know. All right. So next question, because holy crap, man. We're not going to be able to do a lot of questions today, sadly. Question, what's up, boys? If there still isn't enough Pokemon product through the holidays, could Pokemon making a statement, we're aware of shortages as they have in the past, happy Thanksgiving? They could do that for sure. I could totally see them doing something like that. But to be fair, the statement they have, I think it's still up. And it's an active statement that's on their site that they're always putting out there, just letting people know, like, we're aware that there's high demand. Because the demand in the hobby hasn't like it's gone down since the first like half of the Scarlet and Violet era before they introduced like these new cool sets and art designs. But like, I don't know. I feel like I keep hearing Pokemon continuously breaking records. So I don't know. What do you think, Alex?
I mean, I know Rudy made a statement like that like he said something like Pokemon needs to put out a press release to try to cool off this market or Surging Sparks is going to go over $300 or something. And so, I mean, I think it's a good thing. I mean, here, look, I like my stuff gaining values just like anyone else does. But yeah, I mean, when you see a brand new set, a month old, and like $200 something, like it's a little too much. Like I would like to see sets 120, 130, maybe a popular one comes out, it's 140, 150. It is too crazy at this point. So, and people new to the hobby don't get it, and they might just be buying, and not understanding that these boxes have a chance to be like 130 again next year. And so, yeah, it'd probably be a good idea to say something.
I think the thing that gets me the most is the lack of impatience people have for these things. And that's what gets to me because a lot of it gets like passed down the chains. And a perfect example of that, my distro sent out an announcement yesterday saying, we're aware of all the delays that are being caused due to the holiday season. Please bear with us. We're trying to ship this out as much as possible. And I basically, I didn't screenshot it. I just basically copy and pasted the email and messaged people and said the exact same thing. Like, we're doing our best. Here's what distro's saying. Because a lot of people are like, I need my product now, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, right now, the demand is insane in the hobby. Like, take Surging and Prismatic out of it. like I said, we're breaking numbers right now in the program in terms of sales. And I'm not even talking about sales of Surging and Prismatic. That Prismatic's not even out yet, right? So this is happening just because there's so many people that want Pokemon at this moment in time, especially during, Thanksgiving's this week, and then we've got Christmas upcoming. So everyone needs to kind of calm down and realize, like, hey man, like there's only so much that can be controlled at this moment in time. And if you have people that are, your customers, you need to make sure that they're aware of these things. Or if it's just you yourself, now you're informed of these things. But like, this is very atypical of holiday times. Like, we talk about this all the time. Like, holiday season is the best season for Pokemon. Like, that's just kind of how it goes. So I would definitely say, like, guys, let's just take a chill pill, realize like we're in a crazy period. Let's be realistic. Like, things are going to come back down to earth. Like, don't get emotional and start freaking out. Like, let's give everyone a break here. That's all I guess I can really say with all that.
I'm looking at my sheet like from last night's pack break, and obviously Surging Sparks is still number 1 right now, but 151 still getting open in mass. We opened over 100 packs of 151 last night. 100 and I don't know. I haven't added it up. I just have all the tallies. Looks like probably like 150 packs total. 151. Stellar Crown was up there around 100 packs. Paldean Fates, Evolving Skies still being open. We opened like 40, 50 packs of each of those. Like, just across the board, Paldea Evolved is just still getting tons of ripped, and so it's just like, there's still so much demand on all these other sets right now. It's not just Surging Sparks.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. I mean, if you look at least within my like shop, right? The other things that I would say are selling the most are Crown Zenith, Paldean Fates, and 151. Like, it's all these specialty sets. Those
Crown Zenith too. Crown Zenith is like one of the top open sets every time.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
I don't know how I left that out. Crown Zenith it's never gonna go away. It's just like,
yeah.
Talk about a set to open if you want good expected value, guys. If you want to open packs for fun, Crown Zenith is your set. Like, it has so many valuable cards, so many awesome looking cards. Like, you actually have pretty decent chances of getting your value back in that set than you do other sets.
So I want to just kind of say this. We've already been going for an hour and 45, so I'm going to take 3 more questions.
Guys, we have Mason and CNA games in the stream simultaneously.
Oh,
how does that even happen?
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. What's going on?
How does he do that? I want to be like in stream as 2 people at once.
Dude, Mason can just do it all, man. I don't understand. Like, I want to aspire to be on his level at this point. Like,
I know, man. Like, think about this, guys. Think of how much of a slacker Eli is. Mason not only runs 1 but 2 game stores, and he still finds time to make content, and he even does live pack breaks sometimes. And Eli's like, yeah, man, I just don't have time to create content, guys.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again, man. Mason is who I aspire to be. I have a picture above my ceiling, so every time I go to bed, I look up and I see Mason's face, and he's just like, hey, y'all. And it has the text bubble and everything. And I'm like, God, just one of these days, I'll hopefully just be a 5th of the man that he is when it comes to running a business. Like, that's just where I am right now.
And I'm like sending my, order confirmations over to his wife, and she's like, hey, thanks. Hey, can you also say something to Eli about this guy's face on our ceiling? I'm just like, I'll try. Like, I don't know what I can do.
I can't, dude. I'm a fan. Come on now. Don't be a hater. Got to go show some love and support for freaking Mason, man. Oh, man. All right, let's do a couple more questions. We'll do 3 more, and then we got to get out of here. So, this will be an interesting one. With channels like Catch 'em All Collectibles getting more popular, why are people not connecting manipulation of singles to grading plays? Dan bought 100 CC dogs in one day. No manipulation.
I'm not understand the question. Oh, why are people not connecting manipulation to singles?
No, so I think what he's saying is, I could be wrong, but wait, why are people not connecting manipulation of singles to grading plays? Dan bought 100 CC dogs in one day. Not manipulation. Yeah, I don't understand what he means by that. But I will say this. I don't know if this will answer his question. But if you're someone that truly manipulates the market, you're not just going to go do a buyout Like, you're not just going to
And
be
then
like,
tell people about it.
yeah. You're not just going to be like, all right, so I just bought everything out. Boom. Because there's product in the market. What you have to do is you have to slowly buy up product at a certain price over time. Slowly buy it up, slowly buy it up, slowly buy it up at that price point. And then once you start to see that the price point naturally begins to raise after you've been piling up at that lower price point, and you feel confident that the volume of velocity of sales within that product starts to go down, is continuing to climb while the supply has not risen, that's when you make a buyout. It has to be calculated if you really want to be. I mean, I'm not trying to teach a course in like manipulating the market, but like, if you are just like, I like this item, I want to buy it out, and you go buy it out, if there's a lot of that market, or there's not enough supply, or there's too much supply compared to the demand, it's not going to work. You have to have an item that you think is undervalued, and you're slowly accumulating it at a certain price point. And then once the supply starts to finally like slow and the volume either stays the same or picks up, that's when you make your buyout, because you're under the assumption that you're not going to have enough supply in the market because it's been slowly being eaten up over time. I mean, this is just literally what you see in traditional markets of like big hedge funds. Their moves that they're making, they're not done instantaneously. They're slowly accumulating at a certain price point until it's like, all right, time to make this market move and go up.
Yeah, I mean, here they are. Like, so there's 121 near mint listings for the, Entei. There's 128 for the Raikou, 114. That means if Dan bought 100, let's say he bought like 30 or 40 of each, he didn't even buy a quarter of the market, and then more get listed. There's more on eBay. Like, he's obviously not trying to buy them out because he left, a fifth of the market, or 4/5 of the market still there. We seen like a little rise, you could say, on the Suicune. The Entei's not seen any rise in the past like month. I don't know when Dan made that video, but I'm just not seeing anything that's showing any huge, upturns or any like buyout. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not seeing it. So I don't think it's having a huge effect. I think it's just people making grading plays on the card, right? And then here's the thing. Then there's more supply on the market for PSA 9s and 10s. So the cards don't like disappear. He's not like, people aren't holding them and like trying to like manipulate, like hold a big stack of them until the price goes up. It's just they're turning them into slabs, which the card still comes back to the market just in a different form. I don't know. I don't see it being a huge issue.
Yeah, if you're going to manipulate the market, like that's not how you're going to go about it. Like you have to be very methodical, and you have to plan it out over a period of time, not on one live stream where you go and buy something. We've done that before, but that was a mean stream.
And I don't think. I'm just going to go ahead and speak for Dan for a second. I don't think Dan's manipulating the market. I think he's trying to run his business where most of his business is grading cards and selling the grades and making a profit. Like, it's just business.
I have a bunch of Crown Zenith collection boxes. They don't move very fast. Is it best to just break them down and sell the packs?
Sell them to me. Joseph, reach out, man. Nostalgianomics@gmail.com. I'm always looking to buy packs.
I assume he's talking about Sea and Sky.
Yes, sir.
I mean, but like, here's the thing. We said this before with the Blooming Waters for 151. The thing that's going to crash is going to be the packs and the singles. In the same way we saw that with Crown Zenith. So yeah, you have a lot of it because there's a lot of it there. And if you're trying to flip it right now, you can, but the money is not going to be made in the short term. Like, you're going to make your money in the long term. I can't answer if it's going to be worth more sealed than broken down, because I don't know how people value that specific box right now compared to in the future. I mean, it could be worth more sealed, but if it's an issue, let's say of space, I mean, you're still going to have a ton of value because the packs right now are what's holding up the majority of the value of these boxes. And they're the reason why the prices went down on the packs to begin with. So I don't think it's a huge risk if you're wanting to do that. Not to mention too, it's going to be way cheaper for you to ship, and you can sell them in certain bulk lots. So versus if you've got like a bunch of these Sea and Sky boxes and you're trying to ship them, it's going to be way more expensive.
Yeah, Pokeball cards, I guess he tried to give a different take. He said, I don't think Pandito was accusing Dan manipulation. He was saying, why can't people see some what they are calling manipulation is just buying volume of grading plays. Um, yeah, I mean,
Because people don't understand what buyouts are. I literally just gave you like a very like general explanation of what a buyout is supposed to
here, I
look
used to do
like.
buyouts. I'll tell you. Like I used to buy out vintage PSA 9 cards. So what I would look for is I would look for cards to where the PSA 9, PSA 10 disparity was very large. Where let's say the PSA 10 was worth $3,000-$4,000, but the nines were only worth $200-$300. And in my mind, I said, well, I think people be willing to pay more for this card because they're gonna get sick of trying to chase that dollar card. It barely comes to market. I think they'd be willing to pay more than $200. I think they'd be willing to pay for $500. So I would look on the market and say, oh, there's only 10 available on the market. I'd buy every single one on the market. And then if people would list one, I'd buy that out. And if someone would list another one, I'd buy that. And I would continuously buy them out and keep my listing as the only listing on the market until someone would finally buy it. And then I would just list more, and other people would start listing at those levels because the sales data was there then, and you could make pretty good profits doing so if you got it right. It's risky, but though that's how a buyout works: is you buy out the market, you set a new price point, and you keep buying the market as it goes up to make sure you set that new price point, and then you can dump your large supply when the market already sets a new price, and you can realize all the gains when it's up there. That's how it works. Like, it's not buying 50 copies of a card that has 200 on the market and using it to grade. That's not how it works.
No, it's an accumulation of that item over a long period of time, and then once the market starts to play an effect because of whatever reason, whether it be because the supply started to thin, or like in Alex's example, he's now starting to control a good portion of that market. That's when you feel it hit, right? Because if hypothetically speaking, you have an item that has like a pop, we'll say 50 in this example. And if Alex goes and every single time one's on the market, he just buys it up. Obviously, that price that he's buying it for, he's setting the market as he does that. But slowly, as more and more get purchased by him, more and more get consolidated to one seller, which then means that the market itself is now starting to lose sellers. And that's the real thing that people don't understand, is that when it comes to a market and what the general idea of a market is it's a group of sellers that are going and selling the items. It's not that there's a certain amount of product available. It's that there's a certain amount of individuals that own that product. It's why the general consensus with most people is that monopolies are bad, because monopolies take control of the market. They own the entire market and they control and set the price of things. So when you have multiple different ways in which you can go purchase that product from, then you have competition within the market. But then once that competition gets taken away, because now you have way less sellers that are undercutting each other, and one individual or entity or group of individuals run the market, then all of a sudden there's no one to undercut because they run most of it, they own most of it, and people don't want, because now there's such a scarce amount of competitors, they don't want to just flash sell the product. They're going to watch and sit back and see the price continue to climb, and they're going to wait until it continues to rise and slowly sell it off into the higher price. And when that happens, cool, now I have even more less competition, because now all these other buyers that they're taking themselves out of the competition. It's almost like a company that like starts its own tech company, becomes extremely popular, a potential competitor to a big monopoly, and then the monopoly buys that competitor because they would much rather take their money now and just walk away rather than try and fight into it and just stick around, like that's kind of how a lot of these other people are going to look at it when it comes to the market.
Yeah, there's not this big cabal of people that set the price points. It's like if a card gets ran up by a buyout or a manipulation too high, no one wants to buy it. Then you have price competition that brings it back down to a price that people actually want to buy it again, right? It's just like, it's a market. It's a free market.
Yeah. All right. Last question here. Last question. I feel like that's such an easy question. Alex,
Well,
rest of your life, would you choose sealed products or singles?
sealed.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're moving on. Next question.
Here's the thing, guys. I was a true collector. I was a true sealed collector. Like 95% of everything I had when I collected back when I was buying vintage and stuff in 2015, 16, 17, it was still sealed. Even when I wasn't even thinking about investing really, I just liked sealed theme decks and boxes and blister packs and packs and like, collection boxes. Like I just always, like the Southern Island sealed binder. I had the sealed binder. I didn't have like an open one of the Southern Island sets. It's like I just always love sealed. So it's like for me, even if I wasn't worried about the investment potential, I still like sealed stuff better than single cards.
Yeah. All right, here's one. Give it to the people, Alex. Everyone is focusing on Prismatic. Which play should we be doing now while everyone is sleeping at the wheel?
I mean, timing's so hard, right? Like if I'm looking for value right now, I'm looking at Paradox still. I'm looking for like Silver Tempest, Astral, and Brilliant still under $200. In Sword and Shield. You could even argue for freaking Crown Zenith. You can find those ETBs cheap. I'm looking at Stellar Crown. Like even those are really new. Like even Paldea Evolved after this. Like if you can get in on this last, which could be the last like restock, get in on Paldea Evolved. If you can find it in like the 120s, 130s a box. Like I'm looking at those sets, right? I'm not looking at the hyped up sets. Temporals already ran. Like it could always get reprinted now. Like I wouldn't be looking at that. Twilight, it's down right now, but let's be honest, Twilight, like it can still get a reprint. So, like the further back you go, once you get in the early Scarlet Violet era, Sword and Shield, those are going to be a lot safer plays. So that's kind of where I'd be looking.
So I'm only going to speak to the program because I have this information right in front of me. But here's what people in the program are buying.
Wait, don't you have to pay for the paywall to get this information? What the heck?
Yeah, right. Exactly. No. So this is what people in the program are purchasing. Twilight sleeved, Obsidian sleeved, Temporal sleeved. I could just keep going on with sleeved. Booster boxes, Obsidian boosters, Stellar boosters, Paradox boosters, Paldea Evolved boosters, Scarlet Violet base boosters, Paldea and Scarlet Violet base ETBs. Like
SV base, huh?
SV base. Well, to be fair, at distro, some of them are really cheap. They're selling them for like sub $25.
Yeah, I just got like a big flash sale for SV base, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it. And not to mention too, we're in the holiday season, guys. Like Black Friday's around the corner. If you're not taking advantage of like these, I mean, there was like these ETB deals that are going on right now at Target. I know they're going in and out of stock, but like Lost Origin, Stellar or Silver Tempest are going for like $20. So is Brilliant. And then I know that GameStop, I don't know if they're offering it yet, but they're doing $25 for ETBs. So I'm telling you what people are buying in the program, but you yourself, can go take advantage, at least during the holidays of these flash sales that a lot of these other, places are selling them. So I would definitely take advantage of that. And then there's some like tins. I think I heard some people were able to take advantage of. I can't remember was Walmart or not, but yeah, like go take advantage of some of the holiday sales if you're wanting to go secondary market and look at like plays. But that's at least what I can speak to on behalf of the large accumulative amount of people are really kind of taking advantage of at this moment in time.
Take limited. Take the very last question in the chat right now. That limited GIF because this gets talked about all the time.
Alex, you're not a big fan of vintage, but do you think sets like XY in Sun and Moon will hold value in 20 years? Will Scarlet sets be relevant after 3 to 4 more generations?
Yes, this is like the most common like thing people like try to say and they bring up and they talk about, Alex, in 20 years, this will be vintage. That's not the point. The point isn't the age, right? The point is the changing in the hobby, right? Prior to 2015, 16, Pokemon hobby was all but dead. Like it was very slow, right? That's why the print runs were so low. That's why the boxes and the cards are worth so much because there's so few of them out there. So you need very little demand for those to be worth so much. In 2015, right, XY started to pick up. In 2016, Pokemon Go, the cell phone game, the worldwide phenomenon came out, right? Blew Pokemon up. Evolutions continued to blow Pokemon. Pokemon got so large in 2016. You can see the Google Trends is still one of the highest Google Trend chart ever was during that time. That is when things changed forever because you had all the popularity returning to Pokemon. You had social media, which became a driving factor, which never let up. Now you have 24/7 Pokemon content on every platform. And everything changed at that time. And therefore, you have all these new nostalgic times people are going to come back to. Me, myself, I have nostalgia for XY. You have tons of people who have nostalgia for like XY and beginning of Sun and Moon. Tons of people for nostalgia with Hidden Fates and the end of Sun and Moon. Tons of people with nostalgia for Sword and Shield. Tons of people got in during that boom, the pandemic with Logan Paul and all that. You have tons more nostalgia now with the 151. And so all these eras are creating tons of nostalgia. You're having more people stay in the hobby now because of the social media community, where back in the day there was no community. There was like your friends at school, your Toys R Us, your local card shop, which those fizzled out. And so the hobby has went through a major shift and change. And because of that, all of those factors, I believe, are going to carry a lot of these eras into the future. Obviously, the rip and ships are a huge deal now, and they're going to run these boxes up to a certain point where people like no longer can afford to open them, and maybe they're just to a point where they're like 2, 3, 4, 5 grand. It starts to level out. But that's why I believe in all of these eras so much more, and why it's not about like if it's 20 years, it's vintage and all that stuff. It's about we're just in a different time. And so that's my answer to you, if that helps.
Well, before we get to Jay Smooth's question, or second part of the question, I do want to say one thing with that. One thing Pokemon's done very consistently is they've done remakes, or they've done some sort of, reintroduction in a new way of a generation. So for me, I don't think it's going anywhere, because right now, what we've seen so far is, you had the original base games. They made Fire Red, Leaf Green. Then you had the generation after that when they made Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. They made Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. And now we're on to the next one, which we thought was going to be Black and White, but instead it looks like they're bringing back Megas and they're doing a remake of the Kalos region. So it's like Pokemon consistently within their video games has come out with remakes. And if we know anything about the video games, they tend to translate into the TCG, because like we saw when they came out with Legends Arceus, that was during the time of when we got Brilliant Stars, Astral Radiance, and Lost Origin, which had a lot of revolving cards that were set around the Sinnoh region. So I guess to continue on with that, Pokemon is very aware of the love that each person has for their own generation. And because of that, they're constantly going to be paying homage to it, because they know that this is a cult-like following. And so there's going to be so many opportunities for people to make money, and not only make money off of these new sets when they do come out with like some homage sets, but also too, we've seen a huge correlation between some older cards popping off in value when they come out with these new games or these new sets, because all of a sudden, oh man, I remember Megas. Those were super cool. I'm so glad they're bringing them back. Let me go buy some of the old Mega cards so I can pick them up and add them to my collection. And then level X is in the same and same.
Yeah, and then he meant singles. And so, yeah, I agree with you. So I was talking about sealed booster boxes. I think they're all going to continue to rise. Singles, they're different, right? I believe there's going to be a handful of singles from every era that hold and do extremely well. We've seen this already, right? XY is now 10 years old. We're still seeing Silver Dialga rise. We're still seeing, like some of the secret rares rise. We're still seeing like the Gengars, and a lot of the top hits are still doing well, right? We go to Sun and Moon, right? You see the Mewtwo from Shining Legends doing well. The tag team's doing well. Like, even the Charizard GX is coming back from Hidden Fate. So, like, I think there'll be a handful from every era. And Sword and Shield is going to be some of the top alt art. It's going to be, the Lugia and the Umbreon and Rayquaza and Gengar, and, go down the list. They'll be the top alt arts, right? Same thing with us, Scarlet Violet. They'll be the top hits. Now, I don't believe they're all going to do well. There's not enough, demand in the hobby to support all of that. But the top hits from the top Pokemon from some of the top sets are always going to do well. They're always going to perform, like, hold well and continue to have different rises over time, as we've always seen. So that's kind of my take for the next 20 years on these sets, is stick with the top stuff. Don't try to get cute with it and dive way down in the sets and be like, this card that's number 20 in this set is way undervalued. I'm going to stock up 100 of those. Like, maybe you get lucky. Odds are you don't, though.
Okay. So Jay Smooth, I understand what he means. He's saying, when you include the price of the packs that he's buying, which is starting from Black and White all the way to Surging, and then add in the price in which he purchased the case for, which first and foremost, we don't know. He's saying, how much would you sell that as like an art piece to a collector? Which, that's so hard to say, right? Because, like, first and foremost, we don't know the price of the case. And then second off, we don't know the price of what you bought the packs for. I mean, my general advice would be, obviously, you're selling it as like a novelty for the purpose of people that are like avid fans of collecting these single packs, and rather than having to spend the time going and collecting them themselves, you have it all in one nice art collage display. And so I guess you can charge a slight premium for that, but then also you have to ask yourself how big of a market this is. because what are the odds that some person's like, will you sell it to me without the case? Because I actually don't care about it being in a case. I just want the packs. You know what I mean? So you're also going to have to kind of find your target demographic and market and kind of see how that even performs.
I hate to give that same answer. Yeah, dude, like, here's my, if you're already asking about selling it, like if this isn't for your like personal collection, I would say stop right now. Go, there's like 1,000 other things you can do in this hobby to make better gains and take less risk and have more liquid customers. Like, I don't like the idea for like a resale purpose. Like if it's your collection and eventually you may want to sell it, I get it. But if you're trying to like put this together in terms of like making a profit on it,
it's risky. It's risky, especially too. It's risky because right now, like I said, don't know what you bought it for. But if you're going to try and sell off one of each individual pack and you can't do it in a mass amount, which potentially you could, right? I don't know what the market is for that. But let's say you can't. You're now going to have to go sell off each one individual pack until you sell off each one, which sounds like so much work. So unless you're planning on sitting on this for a while, if in fact you can't sell it, like, then yeah, but it's hard because we don't know the market. We don't know the market. So we're giving you advice based off of what we kind of know, because it is a question that I feel like is one that it's very circumstantial. But all right, let's wrap it up here. We've been going for over 2 hours. We got to go, brother. But anything you want to say before we head on out?
I was trying to type in the chat. Yeah, people were like arguing about CGC or PSA. PSA all the way, guys. I messed up. I put Cabal Grading Service. Sorry, I meant CGC stands for Cabal Grading Company. CGC. Obviously, it's a joke. Don't sue me, CGC. We're just joking around here.
All right, brother. Is that it?
That's it, dude.
Cool. Everyone, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. Really helps the channel, gets the video out there. If you're interested in the wholesale program, please message me on Discord. If you want to join, you can, but I highly recommend you message me first to find out if it's right for you. And then Alex, of course, check him out. Links down in the description below for that. He does his lives as well if you're interested in joining his pack breaks. But we're out of here, folks. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hopefully you guys get some good Black Friday deals. We'll see you all after the holidays. Peace.